And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
We're live, buddy.
Outstanding. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 Eastern Time, and of course 5:05 on the other coast, West Side. How's everybody doing today? We're rocking over here. It's been a hell of a weekend. It's been a hell of a week. I mean, we're all on the edge of our seats. I'm pretty sure that no one's watching any TV shows. We're not watching any movies. Why would you? This is probably the best movie you can watch. New York City. Listen, thank you to our friends listeners on the podcast. They're already here, present with us. Hassan, we got M. Franco here, AJ. We got some regular friends here. MC's Audio, good morning. Nighthawk, 13666, roll call. Rafael Martinez, good morning. Cheryl, of course. And hey, Jesse James, thank you so much. We already got a donation to the podcast, $4.99. And he says, like clockwork, this show. Keep steamrolling, guys. John, we got some big news here. And, of course, who's at the center? Philip Banks. What do you think, brother?
Shocker. I'll be honest with you. I'm so tired of talking about this shit that I was like, but it never stops, dude. Like, I wanted to talk about the Tariq Hill arrest, and maybe we'll do that Thursday. I'm thinking we could talk about the Tariq Hill arrest and the statements and what's coming out of the NFL, because it's really bothering me. Like, I'm watching all of it and it's just bothering me, you know. And this year I was like, I haven't watched football in years, and this year I was like, I think I'm gonna watch football again. I think I just need a distraction. Like, if I'm just home on a Sunday and we're not doing nothing, maybe I'll turn football on, and then boom. It's like clockwork. It's just they got to smack you in the face with things you don't want to see. So I kind of want to talk about that, but you just can't, because New York it truly is. I mean, it's in the tagline of the show that, we explore the greatest show on earth, New York City and the NYPD, politics and crime within inside of the NYPD. And it really is. It's the greatest show on earth. It really is, So I appreciate everybody joining us. Jesse, thank you for the donation. Appreciate everybody here. We already got 100 people here. Yeah. So what comes out later on in the day yesterday after we got off the show? 2 Adams allies are being eyed by the feds for potentially influenced city contracts and taking kickbacks. And are you shocked to hear Philip Banks' name? Are you shocked to hear that?
No one's shocked. And, to my surprise, it's constantly getting texts and phone calls. Be like, look, they got him. I mean, he's always in the crosshairs, right? We've been saying it since the beginning. And this just goes back to what we said yesterday and what we've been saying for 2 years. And, just shows the kind of person that Eric Adams is. The selections, the choices that he has, who he appoints in different positions, really is a reflection of himself. And that's why I had asked you that question yesterday. We were doing the podcast. I said, John, if you had to pick 5 friends, if you were, just going to make your appointees part of your own nepotism, your own cronies to surround you, which friends you're going to pick? You're going to be pretty selective on which friends you pick, at least ones that you could trust to have credibility and they don't have compromised integrity, but not with Eric Adams. I mean, you and I said it since day one, like, what a crazy choice. Anyway, with that, listen, I want to say good morning to some of our friends and listeners to the podcast. Of course, Ron Lacey, good morning. Bright and early, Joe Curry, Crazy 10-7. And, of course, there's more. Rafael Martinez, CM Lerdo. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Let's get with this article here. 2 Adams allies being eyed by feds for potentially influencing city contracts. And, of course, Philip Banks is at the center of it.
Shocker. All right, here we go. Let's read this. This article comes out by Craig McCarthy, Larry Salona, and Steve Janowski. And the feds are eyeing a pair of Eric Adams allies for potentially influencing city contracts and taking kickbacks. The Post has learned yet another damaging thread in their sweeping corruption and influence peddling probe, according to law enforcement sources. Federal authorities are looking into whether Deputy Mayor of Public Safety Philip Banks, a top Adams aide, had a hand in steering city contracts to companies purportedly represented by his consultant brother, the sources said. Whoa, I can't believe it. That sounds kind of familiar to me. Taken together, the firm said to be working with Tarek Banks secured millions of dollars worth of contracts with the Big Apple, online records showed. This includes the app SafeWatcher, IT companies such as Derive Technologies and SVAM International, and Mercado, a grocery store delivery app. Investigators are looking into T.M. Pearson, a retired NYPD inspector and fellow top Eric Adams aide, regarding the city contracts he may have had a hand in and whether any kickbacks were involved, according to the sources. Both men appear to be caught in the Fed's dragnet last week, targeted with a litany of high-ranking city officials close to the Adams allies, including Police Commissioner Ed Caban, Deputy Mayor of Public Safety Phil Banks, School Chancellor David Banks, First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright. Agents showed up at their doors with warrants, law enforcement said, and seized electronic devices. Federal authorities also subpoenaed Pearson and Banks' phones, among several other law enforcement sources. Just a few months ago, Chief Business Diversity Officer Michael Garner boasted during an internal meeting that Pearson, who's in charge of doling out lucrative contracts for migrant security, gave out 20 such deals in 1 week alone. There's Timothy Pearson. I mean, before we go further in this article, I just want everyone to remember that Pearson's involved in a lawsuit where the person that's suing him said that he needs to get his crumbs. Everybody's eating off these migrant contracts, and I need to get my crumbs too. What do you think, Eric?
Well, I mean, I think we've seen it all, and it really exposes what we've been saying by Adams, his selective choices for who's going to be in positions around him, and especially being the mayor. Even if you're going to put your friends, we understand that, right? And you're in a position of power. Now you have the ability to take care of your friends. You get that. But you're going to put the best friends that you have. And Timothy Pearson, not only has he been in this position, and there's numerous rumors spread about his need to get paid, but he also is surrounded by sexual allegations. How many sexual allegations does he have? I think 4.
4 separate lawsuits.
So 4 separate lawsuits of sexual allegations. He's involved in an incident where where it got physical, and he's out wearing uniformed items when he's no longer a member of the service. I mean, here's a guy that is just everywhere he goes. It just appears everything that Timothy Pearson touches turns to shit. I mean, if I was Eric Adams, this is the last guy that I would have in my circle right now.
100%. And Hassan, we're definitely not doing 4 hours today. So ain't happening. We were just waiting out because Juan Perez was still in court. We were trying to get him on, but he had a lot of paperwork to do, so we wanted to get him on, just hear his thoughts, just see we spoke to him last night, and he's doing well, and he appreciates all the support. So but yeah, so let's continue with this article. So the mayor wants to make sure the money isn't going to the same old contracts. So they put Tim Pearson in charge of making that. Oh, shit. For the giving out of security contracts of security guards, Garner recalled, according to a source with knowledge of the situation. So just before I even go further, just a little back influence. Eric, do you remember that the person who won the MTA security contract was a company that Philip Banks founded when he immediately left the job? And when he got caught, when they found out that it was a company that he started, he said that he no longer works for them, even though on his application for deputy mayor, he listed them as part of his employment. So I'm sure everything's fine. I'm sure nothing looks all this sounds normal to me. The comments came just days after Pearson was named in an April lawsuit that accused him of always searching for his piece of the migrant contracts and announcing it by allegedly asking, "Where are my crumbs?" I'm like, what do you think about this statement right here? So he says, "Where are my crumbs?" And I'm just going to read the statement one more time. The mayor wants to make sure the money isn't going to the same old contractors. So they put Tim Pearson in charge of making that for giving out security contracts as security guards, Garner recalled. What do you think about that statement alone? Just that statement alone.
Well, to me, the inference is because Timothy Pearson is the guy that's going to get his hands on that money. And who's Timothy Pearson close to? Eric Adams. To me, this is just more shrouded with clouds of suspicion. At least I have my suspicions. I know you have your suspicions. We spoke about this, I think, about a year ago. You and I were both saying, like, I mean, even before that, especially when it comes to like Philip Banks, like, it's just it appears to be a conflict of interest. We see clouds of judgment, anything when it comes to money, and we spoke about that. We spoke about that contract with Philip Banks, and what I'm curious also, if you could go back, can you read the names of the companies that are tied to Philip Banks? Because they're all artificial intelligence and they're technology companies. So I'm curious, and I have to do the research. If are any of those companies producers of drones? That's what I'm curious.
No, none of these are the drone contractors. No, these are like apps that the city purchased. So they're actually they're IT companies. They're actually not even AI. They're apps that the city's purchasing. So it looks like that Terrence Banks is helping these companies to secure city contracts, which is a huge conflict of interest.
Right, and from what I hear, I've done some research about some of these apps, some of these companies. Even you see them on Shark Tank, things like that. There's big money when it comes behind those apps. So it's no surprise when it comes to this administration. Again, it's just clouds of judgment and different angles when it comes to this administration. If it seems like the hand is in the cookie jar in all different locations. At some point, people have to say, okay, something has to stick here. It's just more clouds of judgment. And I always say that you look at someone's friends, you should get an idea. You should get an idea of who they are. And it's pretty tough to surround yourself with more than 5 people. Studies show that most people surround themselves with 5 friends. And that's why I said that yesterday. And if you look at the 5 friends that surround Adams, they've all been clouded with suspicion. So that says a lot about Eric Adams. So if you look at Timothy Pearson, you look at the aides around him, Banks, I mean, everyone is just clouded with suspicion. And it's surprising, right? For a former cop who became captain, we always learned it's important your appearance. And the appearance of impropriety is enough to tarnish your own reputation. We got a lot of friends on the podcast right now. We got a lot of listeners. Chris Arnold says, bingo, MTA. You're absolutely right, brother. Brian Johnson, good morning. Of course, Latina, good morning. Great friend over here. Sal Greco is up here right now. Morning, brother. I think he just did a show. Joe Curry, good morning. Of course, Lily. Let's get further into this.
Yeah, Sal was just on the Sid Rosenberg show. I didn't get a chance to listen to it. But yeah, Sal, we're going to get into the Tyreek Hill incident, but there's so much. I think it's a whole show, honestly. We're going to do a whole show on it. I think Thursday we'll cover the whole thing. We'll bring in the body camera. We'll bring in everything because it's really involved, man. It's really an involved thing. I was hoping to do it today, but there's just so much garbage coming out. This is crazy. So the minute that I hear this, and that statement from Mike, whatever his name is, when he says, "Oh, Timmy's in charge of giving out the contracts," I don't know that he knows or not, but that's completely illegal. Nobody's in charge of handing out contracts in New York City. I don't just go, "Oh yeah, Eric's a good guy." The city process of getting contracts in New York City is so convoluted. It's insane. Now, you can make small purchases in New York City, $25,000 and under, when those don't have to go through a bid process. But it can only be once in a year period, and you still have to get 3 other bids and show why you went with the person. So, and then if the guy you just happen to know the guy, that's not really a conflict. You know what I mean? But when we're talking about multi-million-dollar contracts, such as security contracts, these are required to go through a bid process. So you're not choosing anybody. As a matter of fact, if you're in charge or even sitting on the board of a bid and you have any direct relationship with any of these companies, you should have to recuse yourself. If you have a family tie, if you're a friendship of theirs, if you worked with them in the past, if you may work with them in the future, you should recuse yourself and be like, listen, I'm not getting involved in this process without even bringing it to the conflict of interest board. Just be like, I don't even want the headache. I'm leaving because, this is something that went on years when the mafia controlled New York City. It was bid rigging. That's what it was called. So I don't know that Michael knows that he did that, but he just sunk Timmy Pearson. Timmy's asking for, where's my crumbs? And if it's true, and it's going to be very easy to figure out why these companies got these contracts and who's tied to them. And if you have family, it's a direct conflict of interest. It's direct and it's completely illegal. So if that's the case, I mean, that just shows how brazen the corruption is in New York City. If that's true, maybe he misspoke and this isn't going on. Again, this is all alleged. But if it's true, then there is so much more going on behind the scenes that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
You know, John, we did X Space last night with Cafecito Break, great friend to the podcast. Cafecito Break. Check them out on Instagram. Check them out. The two sisters, they do a great job of getting information out there. Really talk about politics in New York City, and they have an open mind and an open heart. They're always willing to listen to anyone's opinion. And what's interesting is I heard a conversation. John, you had a conversation. I think it was with Dion or somebody. It was a nice conversation, but in someone's opinion, their opinion was that this is pretty much a political hit job towards the Eric Adams administration. And I was actually shocked by what I heard. The fact that the stuff that is alleged with this particular administration would not have been exposed if it wasn't been a political hit job. It would have been just normal business. It would have been overlooked. Kind of like, and I think, John, I was listening to you, and I think you had kind of alluded to it, if am I right? That kind of like it's okay. Like this stuff is illegal, it's corrupt, but it's okay. We could overlook it. But it's been exposed because of a political hit job. I have a problem with that. You know, if there is corruption going on, whether there's a political hit job or not, and I don't think that's what's going on at all, that it's a political hit job with Eric Adams' administration, because my phone's been off the hook, and that's been the assumption by some people, is that Eric Adams has been the target of the Biden administration, and I don't get that. When Eric Adams has been in lockstep with Biden, some of the things he said has been beneficial to get funding, but most of the stuff he says is pretty much on par with the Biden administration, as far as saying after his return from the border, he said he agrees with open borders, and New York City continues to be the end zone of a touchdown. You know, for illegals, offering food, shelter, continuing to be a sanctuary city. So with that being said, Walt Baker, you got a great comment here, and I agree. That's just what I'm talking about. With your circle, and your selective choices, it's a reflection on you. He says guilt by association or associate with the guilty. You're absolutely right. And John, if you could go into that, because I think, and I want to read this also. Sherry Alba, great friend to the podcast here. The food apps sell their apps so the illegals can work. The delivery bags dual purpose for weapon transport to the hotel homes. Imagine that. Definitely a possibility. John, what do you think about that? I think that I have a huge problem with that. It's almost like there's a threshold for corruption.
Well, I think, yeah, the whole thing just speaks to the apathy of all of Americans at this point, and even New York City residents. Oh, the feds went after Eric Adams. This whole investigation sparked because Eric Adams talked about the Joe Biden administration. You know, the strongest thing that I did hear from against the Biden administration was Ingrid, Deputy Mayor Ingrid Lewis-Martin, right? She said they need to close the border on some interview. Eric Adams immediately recanted that and said, no, that is the official position in New York City is the border should remain open. Eric Adams did at one point make the statement, and he said that this migrant crisis is going to destroy New York City. But he wasn't pushing back at the federal administration. He was asking for federal money. Why was he asking for more federal money? He wasn't trying to close the borders. He wasn't trying to stop anybody from coming here. He wasn't trying to not incentivize them. I mean, by all means, he's purposely misinterpreting right to shelter law to fund these contracts, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I mean, that's how I see it. That's how I'm looking at it. That's what God's showing me, and that's how I see it. He's intentionally misinterpreting right to shelter law. He's intentionally not filling out an executive order to allow the NYPD to cooperate with ICE to remove violent illegal aliens who are here to prey on Americans and New York City residents. He's intentionally not doing that and hiding behind the law. So I agree with you. He's 100% in lockstep with the Biden administration. But really that whole statement that this appears to be political or this investigation is targeted, when you really think about it, how apathetic are you as an American or as a New York City resident that you're like, oh yeah, he might, yeah, probably they're stealing hundreds of millions of dollars through contracts. Probably New York City Police Department is doing shakedowns of businesses like they're racketeer gangsters. But that's New York. That's always been going. It's been going on for hundreds of years. The only reason the feds are going after Eric Adams is because he said something one time about the Biden administration. And honestly, if that's the case, this country's so far gone that I'm going to feel stupid that I even still live here or tout myself as an American. And I don't believe that, by the way. I still believe in this country. I believe that there is justice and things happen in due time. Maybe not always. Life isn't fair. Maybe not always the people pay for what they do. They won't pay. Maybe they don't pay here on earth, but you will have to answer for your sins at one point. And I still believe in this country. I think Damian Williams is not a person. He's in charge of the Southern District of New York. I think he's a person you really don't want to be in his crosshairs, regardless if you're a Republican, a Democrat, you agree with him politically or not. I think that if you're doing corruption, they've been doing some great work to weed it out.
I travel throughout this entire country. That's been, that's one of my passions in retirement here and traveling. And that's why I say I meet people throughout this entire country. And the majority of them, even in these blue cities, I travel to blue cities, red cities, blue states, red states. And even these blue cities, it seems to be the majority of the people are actually normal and they believe in common sense. And I've been shocked by it. I'm like, well, where are these people that that we talk about, these maniacs that just don't make sense anymore? What's going on in the country, and it's unfortunate. This small sect of the United States, unfortunately, has been controlled by money, and that's why their voices have been so loud. Because even in some blue cities, I walk by in some nice little towns, or these with nice little shops and stores, and I see some stores. I have to stop and I gotta look. I'm like, wow, the whole entire store is donated to Donald Trump. Donald Trump shirts, Donald Trump hats, all kinds of trinkets for Donald Trump. You're like, wow. So where are all these people that just have this crazy political ideology that's going on in this country right now? And you have to ask yourself, like, really, what's going on? And before I go any further, I just want to say, I see this comment here. Rafael Martinez, thank you so much, brother. That's outstanding. We really appreciate it. We couldn't be more appreciated that people can actually give any funding to this podcast. And thank you so much. It's a self-funded podcast. $50 from Rafael Martinez. He said, John and Eric, thank you for your service. Well, I'm not sure if you're active or retired. If you are, or if you're civilian, thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you for being a friend and listen to the podcast. Anyone here, if you're an active member of the service for the NYPD or another police force in this country, thank you so much for your service. If you're retired, thank you so much for being here, being a friend and listening to the podcast. Thank you for the service that you provided. Anyone that had service in the military, thank you so much. We appreciate anyone here that's a teacher. I have love and respect for teachers, doctors, nurses, anyone that provides a life of service and you put others before yourself. I salute you and thank you so much. But back to what I was saying with the politics, John, it's like, I don't believe that either. I don't believe that this is a political hit job, because I feel the same way. If this is a political hit job and that's the only reason why they're going to expose potential corruption, what's been going on all these years? We just been letting corruption go, but because when it goes against the grain, that's what we're going to attack it. I don't believe that. I don't believe it right now for a second, and I pray that's not the truth.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, it's just the apathy in the hearts of everybody. Raphael, thanks so much, brother. This is Raphael's first live, so thanks for joining us today. Thanks for weighing in. I think this is a better format that we're doing, but by all means, please don't. That's a lot of money, my friend, and we're greatly appreciative of it. And so to everybody, and then Gigi as well, Gigi Jupiter, she's always on here. Or actually, I don't know. That's just she. I just assume because Gigi. So actually what I call my daughter. So Gigi Jupiter, 1999 to the podcast. We appreciate all the donations. It's a self-funded podcast. But more importantly, we appreciate you guys being here and weighing in. And we actually have someone, I think that's a big fan of Latina Brown on here also. And he says, is anyone going to talk about how hot Latina Brown is? So Latina, we'll pass your info along. But yeah, dude, it's scary to think. It's scary to think. So here we are. We have another 2 of Eric Adams' appointees who are potentially enthralled in a bid rigging scheme, right? They're selling contracts, taking kickbacks, giving contracts to their friends. We have the police commissioner currently under what we believe to be an investigation into racketeering, into shaking down nightclubs, restaurants, and basically providing protection service. What he's doing is you're going to, what's being alleged is they're saying you're going to use my security guards. You're going to pay me a consulting fee, and you're never going to have a problem with the police department. But if you don't use my consulting service, maybe you're going to have a problem with the police department. Maybe you're going to have a problem with the police department. And if you don't believe me, just look at my security detail who drove me here, who's right behind me. So we have the police commissioner's twin brother who actually has a security detail. It's honestly, it's corruption at the highest levels. If now we have 2 scandals. Now we have 2 scandals, right? So we have, well, actually 3. We have the scandals that Eric Adams' campaign donations were illicit. They were done intentionally, and there were numerous of them. He was taking money from foreign governments, all of these different entities. Now we have the what I just spoke about going on with the police commissioner and his brother, and the entire upper echelon of the NYPD, and also potentially involving other elected officials and New York State and New York City agencies. So, and it's rumored that politicians have also gotten subpoenaed and got their electronics taken. People were asking yesterday, do we know which phones? Was it work phones or their personal? I don't know. I'm going to assume both. I'm going to assume they took both your phones, they downloaded both of them, gave them back. That's just how I see it. I mean, if I was conducting the investigation, I thought somebody I had probable cause that somebody was involved in any of this stuff, I would be asking for both phones, because potentially there'd be evidence of those crimes on either of your phones. But yeah, we got that. And now we're hearing that some of the same people that are caught up in that other scandal are possibly selling contracts for kickbacks. So right now, Eric, it's 3 different plumes of smoke, right? Because there's smoke in each one of those allegations and each one of those scandals. There's different plumes of smoke everywhere all around them. Let's just say Eric Adams is that stupid and he completely doesn't know anything that's going on. He completely just he has a laissez-faire style of managing, which is basically not a style of managing. It's not managing. And he just leaves it up to everyone else that he appoints, the low integrity people that he appointed. And he knows nothing about any of this. Should he still be the mayor of New York City?
It's funny. I was saying the same thing. I actually said if he knows nothing about it and he's just his ignorance is total bliss, that he has no idea what's going on. He walks around just not seeing anything, which I find hard to believe. That it's actually even worse. We're actually far off where it's much worse if he has no idea what's going on. I don't want a corrupt mayor. And I don't want to corrupt New York City Police Department, but I at least want someone that has situational awareness and knows the people in and around them and knows what's going on in their administration and actually leads and runs their administration. So it actually would be a better path to actually find out that he's actually involved or he knows what's going on than if he has no clue what's going on and he's just been on this. I mean, the ship is driving itself. I mean, the whole thing is on autopilot. That's an even bigger problem. That's a huge problem. He's so stupid. He's so moronic. He has no clue what's going on in the city. That's scary. Listen, I want to thank a friend to the podcast, Sean McCabe. He actually donated money last time to the podcast and gave some great insight. He said he worked doing security with Tim Pearson at Resorts World Casino. Had nothing good to say about him, so I appreciate it. Again, that's why I say at some point, listen, Viral News smeared my name, and obviously got it from people that don't like me, right? There's going to be people in life that don't like you, but there's also going to be people in your life that like you also. But I haven't heard anything good about Pearson. I never hear anything good about Adams. At some point, we have to say, wait a minute. So Sean McCabe says Pearson was always a shady son of a bitch. But so John, what do you think about that? I think it would be far off. It's worse if he has no clue what's going on.
So, I mean, I like I said, like, to me, a lot of what's been done in New York City. Oh, and just by the way, I just want to get this bootlicker out there. Zach Panos, he's definitely wears khaki pants, really, really tight ones. He says we're only calling it corruption because he's a powerful black man. And Ron says, here we go, because he's been watching the targeted attacks, trying to paint myself and Eric as racist. And honestly, it's just laughable. It's just falling on deaf ears at this point. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. But yeah, so like I said it a lot, and I said it about a lot of different things. And I said it about city council, and I said it about corporation council, and I said it about the New York City Police Department, the upper echelon New York City Police Department. And I said it about the mayor numerous times. And what I said was, and I stick to this statement, and I'm going to say it here again, is that regardless of if it's incompetence or it's intentional, it doesn't matter. It's completely unacceptable, and it needs to be dealt with. And if you ever see the part in a casino when the guy, like, all the slot machines are going off at once, and he's like, you didn't see the scam? You didn't see the scam? And then the guy's uncle comes, he's slow, he's not that smart. And he tells Robert De Niro, he's not that smart. And Robert De Niro says to him, listen, I can't trust this guy. I can't trust him. I need people watching my back. Everyone's trying to rob me every second of every day. I need people that are on point. This guy's either too dumb to see it. He's either too dumb to see it, or he's in on it. And either way, he can't be here. And that's how I feel about Eric Adams. I feel the same exact way about Eric Adams. If you didn't see it, you're incompetent. And I'm not calling you incompetent because you're black. I'm calling you incompetent because you're incompetent, right? I'm not calling Damian Williams incompetent. I'm calling you incompetent, right? You're incompetent. And honestly, most of the time when I say you're incompetent, it's just because I don't want to make the accusation that it's intentional. Because so when I pile up with all of the incompetence, people start to wake up and go, wait, what the hell's going on here? Nobody's this stupid. And that's really what it is. I just don't want to accuse you because sometimes the thoughts are just too big for people. Sometimes they're just too big for people to understand. So when I just point out the incompetence in it, and then I continuously point out the incompetence in it, people start to see, wait a minute, maybe he's just not that stupid. Maybe he's not that dumb. So, and that's what I think about that. And I hate this thumbs up. I don't know why it keeps popping up. If anyone knows, please DM me and let me know. It's annoying.
I love to translate life to movies and use movies as an analogy because most people see the movies that we talk about. But that was by far, hands down, the best movie analogy that you've given. I love it, brother. That was hands down. Even M. Franco put what did M. Franco say? Hold on here. Let me find the comment here. He made a comment about it. I think he said perfect analogy. But yeah, that was hands down. And I remember that part of the movie. You're 100% right. Like, you're too dumb. Like, I can't trust you. You don't see what's going on, or you're in it. You're in on it. That's so true. Like, you can't trust them. So, that's what Eric Adams. That's what he is. I mean, that's a great analogy, dude. That's spot on. And Big Bird got a great comment here also. Let's see where it is. Man, the comments are flying in. It's hard to keep up. Color has nothing to do with stupidity or crimes. You're absolutely right. I mean, listen, this administration is so clouded with suspicion. They're under the gun right now. I believe the snakes start to rattle. And when the snakes rattle, people start to tattle. So I think right now we're going to see more information come out of this. It's clear Kaz Daughtry and John Shell have been very quiet on social media. Most of the upper echelon has been quiet on social media. So that's why I say, ultimately, who's affected by this entire thing? If there is some teeth to this, if the mayor and his cronies have some teeth to it. They're actually found guilty. If Commissioner Ed Caban, if he's found guilty of some type of suspicion, it's going to compromise the upper echelon, the police department, the chiefs that we know. They're all affected by it. But who pays the most? It's the rank and file with their boots on the ground. Now, Joe Curry here, one of our friends at the podcast, had made a comment earlier and pretty much saying that's why he doesn't like cops. I mean, Eric Adams was a cop, and he can't be trusted. And that's a great point. And that's who pays for it. Listen, are there corrupt cops? Of course, there's corruption on level in agencies, and that's why we give fair assessments here. I think that's what makes this podcast different. Our friends and listeners on the podcast is that we're all making fair assessments, and we're actually pointing out the obvious, and we actually give perspective. You're not just going to hear on this podcast back the blue, hug a cop, have coffee with a cop. I think we're all tired of that song and dance. Let's actually give real perspective, because in order to have the best representation of the police department has to be clean, and we have to wash away all the affected soil that we have right now. And it starts from the top, because the rank and file, they pay for what's going on. The city pays for it, because clearly, how could this police department be run properly right now as we speak? I mean, and that's another fault on the part of Eric Adams, right? I mean, I'm very suspicious if he has COVID or not. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't get like 10 boosters. But here we are. He supposedly has COVID. And this time, Ed Caban has not stepped down. Clearly, there's no way that he could possibly concentrate on the police department, because he wasn't before. Cass Daughtry and John Shell have not been on social media. I'm sure they're trying to get all their ducks in a row. Most of the chiefs on the upper echelon are trying to figure out, if they do know something, how they walk out scot-free. And if they're dumb enough, if they're the guy from Casino that had no idea what's going on, they're trying to figure out, how did this get over their heads? The whole police department right now is in shambles. And ultimately, the rank and file, the boots on the ground, they pay for this. And that's why I feel saddened. And I really do. I feel sorry for the cops walking around right now saying, what the hell is going on? Who's in charge? What do we do now? And there's no vision. And that's what's sad. And here's the man right here who ultimately is responsible. He has to take ownership. If he never takes ownership, that's where I have a problem.
All right, everybody. We got about 794 people in here. We're talking about two of Eric Adams' appointees who are being eyed for potentially influencing city contracts, giving kickbacks, one of whom has previously stated in a lawsuit, come out in a lawsuit, it's being alleged that he stated, "Where are my crumbs? Everybody's eating off these contracts. I got to eat too." We had another party say in a meeting that this is the person that's in charge of giving out security contracts. That person is Timothy Pearson, former retired NYPD inspector. And then the other person is retired NYPD first deputy. And that is Philip Banks. And Philip Banks left in a shroud of scandal. He's what's known as an unindicted co-conspirator. He was wrapped up in a large corruption scandal just a few short years back under the de Blasio administration, and he retired right before that scandal broke, and he remains unindicted. But unindicted co-conspirator is the title that he has, and he's also wrapped up in this. It was a questionable choice for Eric Adams to appoint him. So that's what we're talking about. Brian Johnson asks, are active MOS still being banned from listening to this podcast? Brian, so is there an official ban on this podcast? There's not an official ban. It's an unofficial ban. It's an unofficial ban. It's if we see you in this chat, if we see you liking things on your Instagram or on John's Instagram or Eric's Instagram, or you like any of the podcast memes or share them or talk about them or comment, you're going to have a problem with this administration. There's literally been people that have been approached in the hallway. You have a problem with this administration by very high-ranking people in this department. I mean, just complete insanity because they liked a post or they commented on a post. And again, the NYPD spent millions of dollars investigating this podcast and attempting to shut us down and threaten us and intimidate us, as well as send some of their criminal friends who caught up in this corruption scandal to try to intimidate and bully us. So, I mean, just Is there an official ban? No, there's not. But I mean, yes, there is. So no, that. But it's all right. With that, we still have the support of the rank and file, and they're listening to this in secret. They're taking photos of our posts as opposed to sharing it personally, and they're going out in private, secret group chats, and the information's still getting out there because the truth's a hard thing to kill. So yeah, let's get into this right here. This is Eric Adams speaking at a church this weekend. Take a listen to what he's got to say.
Over the weekend, Adams visited churches in Brooklyn and compared his experiences to the biblical figure Job.
Reporter said to me this morning, oh, you feel you're being persecuted? I said, no, I'm just in my Job moment. And when you come out of your Job moment and your faith is intact, you will receive blessing tenfold.
Over the weekend, Adams visited churches in Brooklyn and...
What do you think about that, Eric?
That's why I say you don't have to watch TV. You don't have to watch movies. This administration is outstanding. This is the best Saturday Night Live skits I've ever heard. I mean, honestly, Mayor Eric Adams is hysterical. Sometimes the stuff that comes out of his mouth. I mean, he definitely by far missed his mark in life. He should be an entertainer, not a mayor, because that's what he does. He just entertain you with deflection and bullshit. Listen, I don't want to get totally off topic, but I do want to thank Tom. He donated $9.99 to the podcast. It's quite interesting, and I think this would be dear to you. I'm sure you probably have knowledge of it, and it's quite ironic. While Eric Adams has COVID, right? Eric Adams has COVID right now. Here's an idiot speaking right now. It's laughable. But Eric Adams has COVID right now, supposedly.
And he's supposedly boosted, too.
And supposedly boosted. I was laughing about that.
And he put out, I'll get that statement, too. We'll put out his statement. I won't even say. We'll put it out.
And tomorrow's 9/11, right? Honoring heroes. And I think that's it's so fitting, Tom. So I really appreciate you putting this out here. Tom donated $9.99. And tomorrow's 9/11, honoring heroes at the same time that this case is going on. I mean, to me, that's crazy. Tomorrow, the most important vaccine mandate case is being heard at the New York State Court of Appeals. Matter of O'Reilly versus Board of Education. A case, this will affect every public employee. Yeah, shout out to the teachers. Honestly, they've really took the forefront in this fight when it comes to COVID. Again, how fitting that it's 9/11. We're honoring our heroes while at the same time they're being slapped and they have to fight their way in court to keep their job supported in New York City. I mean, honestly, I got like chills. My hair's going up, and I feel sorry for everyone that has to go through this. It's absolutely ridiculous, and people have still been discarded while Eric Adams gets to tote around and pretend that he's actually in charge of the city.
Yeah, so this is a big case. Tom, thank you for bringing that up. I actually got a call from a teacher last night who was terminated and never put an exemption in, and they were asking what could be done. So I said, let's pay attention to this case. Let's see what happens. I gave her a couple of attorneys' names. Yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely a slap in the face. We'll get Eric Adams' statement, but just to go back on his Job statement. He compares himself to Job in the Bible. And Tom, thanks for donating to the podcast. We appreciate you, brother. I know who you are, and so this is how the Bible describes Job, right? This is how they describe Job. And this man, Job, was blameless and upright, fearing God and shunning evil. Job was the greatest man of all the people in the East. So this is who Eric Adams compares himself to. So Job was so faithful and such an upright, upstanding man. Job had land. Job had children. He had a flourishing family. He had a flourishing economy. He had great people around him. He just had a great life, and he was a great person. He was well respected, and everybody loved Job. And the devil goes to God. And the devil says to God, these people don't love you. You think they love you. They don't. They don't have faith. And God says, yeah, take my buddy Job over here. You could do anything to Job. You could do anything you want to Job, but you can't kill him. You can do whatever you like to Job, but Job's faith is never going to falter. And so the devil proceeds to attack Job, takes his children from him, takes his wealth from him. He takes his clout from him in society, takes his money, his land. And Job never loses faith. And in the end, God rewards Job and he gives everything he lost back to him sevenfold. Do I take that literal? That, oh, yeah, it's a good thing if you, God forbid, you lost children and all that. No, but it just talks about the struggle of humanity. And that, my friends, is not Eric Adams. Eric Adams is not the person who's blameless and upright and fearing God. He's not the one who's shunning evil. He's not the greatest man of all the people in the East, because look what Tom just said. There are teachers that are homeless. There are firefighters that are homeless. There are cops that are homeless. There are people that never did a damn thing to anybody that are out of work for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And we destroyed New York City under this man. So for you to sit there and say that you're blameless and you're God-fearing, you absolutely attack God's children, Eric. You absolutely attack God's children. And everything that's happening to you, there is not one person on this earth that could take credit for it except God himself. And like I said, whether you pay in this life or the next, you will pay.
And that's why Crow Eater has a great comment. Of course, it's a response to our troll Juju. Juju, imagine being that scared of a virus with a 99.997 survival rate that you get in experimental vax. This was in response to a stupid comment by Juju that said, imagine being scared of a vax. And listen, again, we're pretty knowledgeable that Juju is part of the upper echelon of the police department. So this is what the upper echelon of the police department thinks about you. Thinks about you, a teacher, a firefighter, a police officer that served the city well, that didn't take the vaccine, whether it was religious accommodations, whether it was medical accommodations, or because, and I always say the other, and I have no problem with it, you just didn't want to because you didn't know the science of it. You didn't feel comfortable with it. Now, there's no secret. I don't hide behind it. I lost my father. My father was in a nursing home. My father passed away. COVID was a contributing factor, and he died of COVID. It was a horrible, horrible funeral. I couldn't even see my father. They wouldn't let me approach the casket. I had to watch from a distance and watch with binoculars back then. It was just the most insane thing. And shortly after, they started administering the vaccine, and they just made it so accessible and so comfortable. I was a Marine. I had vaccines up the yin yang. I never looked into it, and I was so focused on doing the job. I had walked into work one day, and they had everything set up in the muster room, and like, we got the shot ready. You want to take it? I'm like, all right. Well, I took 1,000 shots. What's one more? And I never put any thought into it. And when I started to see that I was losing my brothers and sisters from the police department because they were unwilling to take the vaccine for whatever personal reasons, that's where my eyes opened up. I said, wow, this no longer is about medical. This no longer about our lives. This is political. And I felt terrible. And I stand, and I still do. And I stand with anyone that's been mistreated because you refused or you were unwilling to take a vaccine that really has no science to it. And again, I put no thought into it. I didn't care. I said, all right, I got so many vaccines. What's one more? I figured, unfortunately, if I'm going to meet my demise early in life because of vaccines, it's probably not going to be, I don't know which one it's going to be. I mean, I took anthrax. I took all kinds of crazy vaccines, going to combat. But again, your personal choice. If you don't want to take it, I stand with you. I mean, this is America. At least it was. And, that's why it's important. I'm really glad that Tom, thank you for addressing that, especially tomorrow, the fact that it's 9/11. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in fate. I believe it's just perfect timing, and the timing's impeccable.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So let's hear what the illustrious Eric Adams says. So, I put out a post 2 days ago, and I said that rumors are Ed Caban is expected to step down as early as tomorrow, which would have meant yesterday. I said, what do you think? Do you think that he should step down, or should he let it play out? And Marcia Kramer, Marcia Kramer, excuse me, I believe she's on, I could be lying, but I think she's on ABC7, or she's on a major news network. Great reporter, nice woman, in defense of Eric Adams. He's always nice to her, but she asked some tough questions. He asked the questions that people want to know. Her and Tina Moore have recently been escorted out of 1PP and removed their privileges removed from being in the media trailer where all of the reporters have been sitting for years and years and years. So they had their privileges revoked because, they asked the questions that New Yorkers want to ask. So Marcia Kramer at some other nonsensical construction project or whatever, because Eric Adams is going to every project around New York City that you could think of, because he's like, I need to get away from the scandal. I can't be around the press. I have to just go do layup things. I can't be in the press. So she asks him, should Ed Caban step down? He said, and I'll put that up in a minute. He basically said that, I'll just, in sum and substance, he said, like, nothing's forever, nothing's permanent. She asked, is Caban going to be here in 2 months? And he's like, I can't say it. It completely contradicts what he said the night prior when he went on his buddy Dan Mammarino, who's like the easiest ground ball layup. He's like the go-to for, he's the easy early morning show where Kazman and Robin go to spread their propaganda and the crime is down nonsense. So Dan Mammarino, he's like, I stand with Eddie, I do that, and then the next day he changes his tune. But immediately after that press conference, he clears his entire schedule and he's not going to any more construction projects. And that's all he had. He just had like construction projects lined up. So he pulls down. He says, no, I can't. I have COVID. Conveniently, because I know I was sitting there, and I'm sure the rest of you were. If you guys don't watch Off Topic Tuesday, which is a Tuesday press conference that Eric Adams has every Tuesday, it really is one of my favorite. It's if I could say, if you guys ask me if I watch any TV shows or I watch sports, no, I watch Off Topic Tuesday religiously because that's my favorite piece to watch. Is reporters actually asking the questions that matter. You have reporter like Katie Honan. She's a pit bull. She's unafraid to ask questions of this administration. We had Dan Rivoli last week from New York One asking questions that matter. Questions people want to know. Why are you downplaying this shooting at the West Indian Day Parade? Something we covered earlier. And here, and then all of a sudden, it's just so convenient that right before Off Topic Tuesday, he tests himself. And my first question is, who the hell even still takes COVID tests? I doubt this guy did, and I don't even believe it at all. But let's hear what he has to say, and let's get your thoughts. This is what he says immediately after running from that press conference.
Hey, New York, this is Mayor Adams. Just was tested positive for COVID. Be careful. COVID is still here. Make sure you're up on your vaccinations. I'm still working hard from the city here in Gracie Mansion. I remember when I got COVID at the beginning of my term, we continue to work and push through. We're going to do it again. Just wanted to let you know. Take care.
So I'm just confused, Eric, because do you think it's even possible? Because he said that, he basically forced me out of my career and hundreds of people on this channel, forced us all out of our careers because he made a choice. He was a good cop, right? The good cops get vaccinated is what he said. So how is it possible? I can't see that it's possible that he got it.
Well, we were sold on the idea, right? The way that they sold the vaccine and the boosters was that, well, put others before you put yourself, right? Because the vaccine is not about yourself, right? You get vaccinated so that you can protect other people. And we were also told, well, you get the vaccine because, hey, you may contract COVID, but it's going to be mild symptoms and you'll be able to still be out in public. So that's quite interesting because here it appears to me, he looks pretty healthy to me. It looks like if he does have it, I don't want to say he doesn't, because what if by miraculously he does have it, which I find hard to believe. The timing's just impeccable. But let's just say he does have it. The symptoms are supposed to be mild. He looks fine to me. He doesn't look flushed. I don't see any coughing. I don't see any sneezing. He doesn't appear sick to me. And he has his usual stupid grin on his face. So nothing's changed. This is just more hogwash and more gaslighting to the public. This administration loves to give you a different reality. It's almost like we're living in a different reality. It's like, are we just going to be, sucked in by some UFO, because that's what's going on with this administration. It's the most ridiculous thing. And again, I think, and I'm going to make this statement, it might be a bold statement, and I don't know, but I'm going to assume that he's hiding right now, and Ed Caban has not stepped down to put more of the spotlight on Ed Caban and take it off himself. And for that, that's why I believe the upper echelon of the police department is useful idiots.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely hiding. I'm gonna make the prediction. I'm just taking a guess here. I don't think that Ed Caban's stepping down today or tomorrow. I think that he's going to step down Thursday. It's either today or Thursday. I don't see him making it out of this week. I could be wrong, but I just don't see how that is. I think this was a strategic move to avoid off-topic Tuesday and avoid the negative press that's coming out in light of all the issues. A lot of people are making the claim that myself and Eric are jumping up and down, that we're happy about it, that we just hate on this administration. I don't, but I'll tell you right now, if they're guilty of what they're being accused of, I don't even want to see them step down. I want to see them perp walked out of 1PP. I want to see them in handcuffs with a jacket over their head getting perp walked out of one police plaza, because it's disgusting. Not only did they destroy the city, they destroyed storied institutions. So I'm not sitting here jumping up and down if anyone steps down, because it doesn't matter if Ed Caban steps down. And right now, I think he's getting more pressure than he really deserves. I think not only should he step down, the entire upper echelon of the NYPD should step down. Oh, Ed Caban's going to step down, but what? You're going to replace him with some other low integrity lack? No. I want to know who was involved in this. I want to know the details of this investigation. I want to know if this is legit. Right? So I'm not sitting here saying, yeah, Ed Caban's going to step down and life's going to go back to normal. Absolutely not. How could anybody around this administration be trusted at this point? If that was going on with numerous people in the upper echelon of the NYPD, I mean, if this is going on under the mayor's watch, we got bigger problems than just a police commissioner stepping down. But I do believe that his move of contracting COVID, which I didn't know he could contract, right? Again, because I was too dangerous to work. Marlon Bethel was too dangerous to work. The rest of you that, held on to your religion, you're either because of your religion, you held on to your integrity, or you had medical issues barring you from taking it. Eric Adams forced you out of your career, terminated you, destroyed your good name, called you a conspiracy theorist, did all this shit. This is the greatest man. This is the greatest man in the East, according to himself. This is his Joe moment, and I think it was a pure strategic move, and he did that solely to avoid this conversation about Ed Caban. What are your predictions around Ed Caban? Kaz Daughtry, I believe, made the statement that he's not stepping down, and there was a newspaper article about it. I believe that Ed Caban said he's not stepping down, he's not going anywhere. Do you believe that? What's your thoughts around Ed Caban? What should he do? What shouldn't he do?
I wouldn't be surprised by this administration. Again, I think that Adams strategically put useful idiots in place at the upper echelon of the police department. Because I do believe right now the preponderance of evidence, because the amount of allegations that we have, and you look at the totality of what we see, the preponderance of evidence that we see at this point leans towards pure corruption going on with the police department. And I think that Adams puts useful idiots in place to take the deflection off him. And that's what they're unwilling to realize, because they're just too stupid to even see it. So it just shows a lack of leadership also. Because I think Ed Caban, if in fact he was a good leader, a true leader, let's think of good leaders that we've seen in our lifetime, like Teddy Roosevelt, and I think that's a pure example, right? Someone that was led this country, and someone that also led the city, that was a true leader. And one of the true leadership traits that I learned when I was in the Marine Corps, and if there's any Marines on here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And one of them is unselfishness, and that you put your men and women, and you put the mission before you put yourself. It's one thing I always learned, is that the mission comes first, and then troop welfare. And what I see with this administration is their welfare comes first before the mission. That's why I say egos over everything. It's self-serving. I believe that Ed Caban should make a statement that right now there is a cloud of suspicion because the feds had stepped in, and there's no allegation at this time, but there is an investigation. You will see that I will be free. There will be no allegations. Let this investigation play out. We are supporting the feds at this time. And for the good order of the police department and the good order of the city, to allow the city to flourish and to continue operate without a cloud of judgment, I'm going to step down and allow this city to run. And we're going to appoint such and such person who has nothing to do with the police department, right? Some independent outsourced to show that there's transparency. That would be a true leader. But we don't see that with this administration. All we see is, we're not backing down, blah, blah, blah. It's like little kids, and it's shameful. And who pays for it? Again, it's the boots on the ground. You know, it's the men and women right now that suffer for failed leadership. And that's why I have to ask you this question, John. What makes it worse? Because I've heard people say, John, people have heard you and I say, if this is a scandal, it's the worst scandal of the police department. And some people, some of these cops are out here, committing murders, drugs. And we don't know. If they're willing to get money at nightclubs in this manner, you're going to have to put some muscle behind it. So there may be some violence if this comes true. But I'm going to ask you this. I'm curious from the listeners and our friends on the podcast. What makes it worse? What crimes were committed or who did it?
It really doesn't matter. I mean, again, if we're a country, if we're a nation of laws, it doesn't matter. The crime's egregious. Doesn't matter who it is. So we go on the crime, right? It doesn't matter who did it. Oh, this, that, the other thing. But we're talking about leadership, and I agree with you. I think Caban should resign, because one of the questions is does he still have the clearance to sit in intel briefings with counterterrorism and the feds? I'm going to say right now he doesn't. And he might not have had it for months. How are you leading the police department? How are you leading how are you protecting and providing public safety for the people in New York City if you're the number one dog and you don't even have a security clearance? You can't even know what's going on. How could you properly plan what should happen? How are you in charge? You're not really in charge, that means. If you have no security clearance, you're not really in charge, and then the police commissioner is just a puppet. But the thing with it is that, why should he step down? Because the other person that should step down is Eric Adams, and he's not putting the city before himself. He's putting himself before. He's Job. Oh, all these corruption scandals. This is God. This is the devil. This is God allowing the devil to test me, and then he's going to give it back to me sevenfold. He believes himself to be Job, the greatest man in the East, the one who's blameless. This man is far from blameless. The people he surrounded with himself alone speak to his character, right? Would somebody say on here the other day, you lay down with dogs, you get fleas? Our guy's got a lot of fleas because he's laying down with a lot of dogs. So Ed Caban's just following step right at this moment in time. He should have stepped down yesterday, 100%, but he hasn't. And he's just following what he sees in this leadership. I mean, they completely seem unbothered. I mean, all the reporters are reporting that Phil Banks is completely unbothered by any of this, and he's being very cordial with them. And he's like, whatever. Another day in New York City, I mean, I don't know. I think I'd be shitting myself right now if people are grabbing my phone, accusing me of things, and there's probably a lot of things on those phones that they should be scared of.
I got to read out this comment. It is hysterical. This is definitely the comment of the day. Son of Sam, Caban may be in the clear. Turns out his cell phone has been on airplane mode for months.
That definitely is the comment of the day.
That comment is great. Outstanding. You know what? And it's funny we're talking about phones, right? I think that if phones were apprehended, it would be personal phone and job phone. But I'm sure mostly upper echelon. And John, I think you even said it first. We were talking about it. They're so comfortable at the upper echelon of police department. I'm sure that they use the job phone as their personal phones also. I mean, we know that John Shell takes his personal phone to Salty Dog, and he tweets from it when he's had a little too many. So why would it be any surprise?
Wait, I don't know if this is true, but could you people just keep an eye on social media and see what's going on and just make sure, because I think some breaking news is about to come down. So it's funny that we're saying this. And we're talking about this topic. Sorry to cut you off, Eric, but if anybody, please scan Twitter and Instagram and see if there's any public safety announcements coming out of the mayor or the New York City Police Department.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, the rumors and the information that flies out, there's so much news coming out of the police department. You know, we wanted to talk about the incident in Miami, and we didn't even get the opportunity to do that yet because it's just one thing after another with this police department. And I'm going to reiterate that true leadership is being unselfish, and that just shows how our cops are suffering right now. I mean, these poor cops are walking around right now, and it's visionless. I mean, John, just think about this, right? His brother, he's not his identical twin, but it looks just like him. He has a security detail. So that's why I had made a joke yesterday, but there is some truth to it. I doubt he has any access to intelligence, a certain sensitive locations to the police department right now, maybe months. But does his brother have access? Did his brother have access? Because he has a security detail. He looks just like him. Did he have a key? And if not, is there facial recognition? You know, I made a joke about it, but it's kind of funny because, John, think about it. You're a cop with 2 years on the job. You're working at one police plaza. You're working inside one police plaza, one of these security posts. And Ed Caban's brother comes in with his security detail. Is anyone going to stop him? Is anyone going to say that's not the commissioner? He can't be going to that office? Is anyone, let's be honest, I'm going to say, is anyone? Because I was told on the phone, John, what do you want these guys to do? He's just a one-star chief. What are they supposed to say? He's just a two-star chief. So, John, am I wrong? Could Ed Caban's brother have access to anywhere in one police plaza?
Ed Caban's brother has a security detail. Ed Caban's brother could go anywhere in New York City. He has more access in one police plaza than the majority of captains, lieutenants, sergeants, and cops do. Detectives as well. The overwhelming majority. He's got carte blanche access. He has a security detail. He probably has a parking plaque. He probably has an ID card, maybe a free Metro card. Maybe he probably has everything. He's probably got everything. I mean, he's got more than what you know. I'm hearing, but I'm hearing one PP just shook. So let's see. I don't know. Let's see. I'm hearing one PP's rattling right now. If any of you reporters are on here listening to this, call your sources. Remember where you heard it first. You know, let's go. Find it out. Let's get it out there. Get the information out there. We don't care about breaking the story. We just want to talk about it and give our anecdotal experience on it. Laura's on here. Laura's a great friend to the podcast. Truly love you, Laura. Thanks for all your support. So tomorrow we're going to shut down for 9/11. We are not going to go on while the ceremony is taking place. Somber day for everybody, I'm sure. A lot of harsh memories. In the evening, however, we will go on tomorrow night on X. Myself, Eric Dim, Sal Greco will be on an X space hosted by Divisive and Laura. You could ask questions directly to us. You could speak yourself. We'll give you the floor, things of that nature. We'll be talking about all things New York City. So please join us out on X. And you could do that by just going my X, Eric's X, or Sal's X, and you'll see it in red or our pictures, and just click on it, join space. You could come on there and speak. Obviously, you could stay hidden behind your Twitter handle and all that. But if you want to weigh in on anything, Twitter spaces are always fun. We're looking forward to that tomorrow. But again, tomorrow we will be down. We are not going to interrupt the ceremony. So, Eric, what are you looking for, guy? I'm hearing things tonight. The streets are talking.
The streets are talking. I got a rumor like always, but who knows? Let's read it out.
Yeah.
Directly from a 2-star at one police plaza. Caban resigning.
That's bullshit. But all right, God. My God. Read out. These. By the way, we get these rumors all day long. But yeah, read it out.
That's why I was laughing. I'm looking at laughing because they go all day. But it's fun. Yeah. It's almost like the rumor game in the New York City Police Department.
Yeah.
I used to say cops know before the Chiefs do. Directly from a 2-star in one police plaza. Caban resigning Thursday at 1600 hours after affairs in order. Okay. Chief Madry to City Hall to take over for Banks. Okay. Chief Shell to be named interim PC. Hey, Juju, congratulations. Commissioner Daughtry to first deputy commissioner. First deputy commissioner Kinsella forced retirement. Commissioner Shepard remains DCPI until January, where he takes over for Shell. Chief Benoit to retire. Chief Pintos to retire. Chief Roa Griffith, CO Police Commissioner's Office. Chief Matarasso, Chief of Department. I heard she's on the outs, though. Chief Obi, Chief of Housing. Chief Gurley, Chief of Patrol. I mean, I think that's total hogwash, but it's pretty funny. You got to laugh at the police department.
Oh, yeah, they always put that out. But it leads to, me and you made a bet the other day that when Caban resigns, because I'm not saying if, I put out a couple of maybe last week, I said that I'm hearing rumors that he was going to step down, which I believe were true. And then this broke. So when Ed Caban steps down, me and you made a bet. You said it was going to be Kaz Daughtry, and I said I'm leaning with Tariq Shepard. So we made a bet. But we also said that if anyone else, including Tanya Kinsella, becomes the PC, that's 0-0. We both crap out. We both lose, right? I'm leaning heavier with we're both losing right now. What do you think?
I gotta laugh. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry, Juju. I was rooting for you. I know Juju was definitely Kaz and John Shell. I was rooting for you, brother. John had Tariq Shepard. Don't be jealous. But yeah, dude, it's not looking good. And if they do put Tanya Kinsella, that would be the biggest mistake because, and I'm not talking about a personal level, how I feel about her. I'm just saying that somehow she has to be infected by this. And listen, she's exactly what you're talking about at the casino. She's either too dumb to know what's going on, or she knew what's going on and is either in on it and is not saying anything. And honestly, I have a huge problem. And if there's any chiefs out there right now that if they saw something and they didn't say something, I have a huge problem. You're supposed to lead by example. That is the theme of the police department. If you see corruption, you report corruption. How can we expect that from the low rank and file of the New York City Police Department when we can't expect it from leadership? And that's why I say the leadership of an organization, especially the New York City Police Department, as vast as it is, and the camera, the spotlight is on the New York City Police Department, this is huge. And that's why I agree. What you did is important, but it's also who did it. Because it weighs much more heavily. If there's a cop out there who's corrupt and he's doing shakedowns, it's a big deal. But that cancer could be cut out. It's almost like an encapsulated cancer that someone could have. But when it's the leadership, that cancer is not encapsulated. That cancer has spread.
100%. So listen, we got about 1,400 people on here. We're talking about all of the corruption scandals involving not only the New York City Police Department, but Mayor Eric Adams, his appointees. We're talking about protection rackets, shakedowns. We're talking about bid rigging, pushing city contracts, getting kickbacks. We're talking about illegal, illicit donations, not only from people that shouldn't be donating, but from foreign entities as well. So that's what's going on. If you guys could do us a favor, if you could like and subscribe, if you could share the space out, get more people in here, trying to get to all your thoughts. We're getting a lot of questions and comments. We'll try to get to them through the day as it goes on. We got about 45 minutes left of this space. But yeah, rumors are coming out. So by all means, everyone's saying that NYPD Commissioner Ed Caban is expected to step down amid the federal probe. Myself and Eric both believe that he should have already stepped down and taking a leadership role to remove some of the eyes off of the New York City Police Department. But I also believe that Eric Adams should step down as well. His entire administration is shrouded in scandal. So while all of the calls are going out that people are asking him to step down, people expect him to step down, it came out yesterday from the NYPD that he's not resigning and he's not going anywhere. What are your thoughts about the NYPD saying that? Like, does that just show how They have zero issue lying to the public. I was like, to me, that's confirmation for me. I was like, because I also remember, do you remember the head of the Secret Service? She wasn't stepping down either. Do you remember that? And then the next day she stepped down, and I was like, oh yeah, so it's more than likely it's in the next few hours. What the NYPD saying he's not going anywhere? It's more than likely it's the next few hours.
It shows the theme in a police department, right? It shows. So one key element to also being a good leader is having humility, and it's actually knowing when to concede, right? You have to. I always say, in life, you have to know when to pick and choose your battles. Sometimes there's a time to fight back, and sometimes there's a time to take a loss or just concede. And this administration is unwilling to ever concede, even if it's for the betterment of the police department, the public. Kaz Daughtry, John Shell, they're never willing to concede when it comes to bullying and attacks on social media. We'll see them tactically retreat. They'll cool down, and boom, they come back and fire. They'll troll this podcast. They'll spend 4 hours of taxpayer money at one police plaza for the New York City Police Department trolling this podcast because there's no humility. It's egos over everything. And that's the misstep of this police department, especially with this leadership. And again, it's costing taxpayer money. It's destroying the police department. It's hurting the people on the ground, the rank and file. It's hurting public safety. And we can clearly see with the numbers, despite the perception that they've tried to distort to the public, thanks to a friend who's on social media. Check him out. Sam Antar, admitted felon, but man, he knows his numbers and he's not shy. Follow him on social media because he debunks John Shell, Kaz Daughtry, and anyone that's trying to put out misinformation about the numbers that's going on. How does he do it? He does it with the data from the New York City Police Department. So that's factual, not misinformation.
Eric, if Ed Caban steps down, when Ed Caban steps down, what do you believe is going to happen with those around him? Chief Pintos, all the people closest to him, his right-hand man who is a sergeant who's expected to also be involved in this corruption scandal. Supposedly he was also subpoenaed. I don't think his name came out in the papers, so I won't put it out here. What do you think? What do you think we're going to see from them? Are they also going to put their papers in and leave?
Excuse me. I'll tell you what you're going to see. And this is something that we're going to have to do on a FOIA request. Bingo. Ron Lacey, you just said it, my brother. 233 Broadway, the place that John Shell said they're not going to go. But what you're also going to see, and I don't know if we could get this by a FOIA request or how we could get this, is that these chiefs, most of them probably have 2 or 3 vacation years on the books that actually, if they left, they would not actually officially retire. What you're going to see, they're going to forfeit their vacation time, and they're going to immediately retire at 233 Broadway. That's a fact.
Yeah, it's wild, man. I'm looking to see some breaking news on here. I'm still waiting, so if I'm a little distracted, I apologize. But yeah, there's a lot of craziness going on. What else we got in here that I wanted to bring to light? So still Ed Caban and numerous others engulfed in this corruption scandal are being lauded with Man of the Year awards. I'm going to pull one up on here soon in a second. I just never shared it to Twitter yet, so I'm going to bring this up. What do you think about these Man of the Year awards? I mean, this comes out from the NYPD's Illyrian Society. I believe this is made up of officers of Albanian descent. For those of you that can't see, it because it is smaller, the Person of the Year is Police Commissioner Edward Caban. Phil Rivera is being held as, I can't even see it either. But basically, there are numerous people on here that are going to be awarded on October 3rd. Police Commissioner Ed Caban is being awarded as the Person of the Year. This is from last night. Sold out, right? The NYPD Hispanic Society had also put out a photo of Ed Caban and said, "We stand with our commissioner." What do you got to say to these fraternal organizations? And should this continue? And does he even make it to October 3rd?
Well, first of all, before I get into that, I just want to say thank you to our listeners and friends of the podcast. I got 2 comments over here. They're actually right. So I said that they would forfeit their time, but they do have those chiefs that are going to resign and retire. They actually not just resign, retire. They do have the opportunity. Someone said it here. That's correct. 2 stars and above. Putnam County Crime Analysis with Andrew DiStefano and also Paul. Who's this one here? Paul. It's tough to follow all these comments at this time. But basically what they said is 2 stars and above that they have the ability to cash out their time. So that is true. So we will see them cash out their time. But look, I mean, what does this show here? The fact that we constantly see people being honored as Man of the Year, it coincides with their rank and their ability to have power and the ability to be beneficial to these fraternal organizations. It's a huge problem, and I say it's covered in scandal. That, I believe, is tied to corruption. I say the nepotism that we see is so egregious in the police department right now is a form of corruption. Again, Juan Perez, who is a former police officer, only retired 1 year now from the New York City Police Department, only because he had to retire to save his job because he was wrongfully convicted by the public and also by the justice system for summoned to a 911 call, overcoming resistance by an emotionally disturbed perpetrator. And yes, thank God he got a conditional discharge. And we were fearing that he was going to do actual jail time at Rikers. And I do think it's because of this podcast, our friends and listeners that actually have been supporting Juan Perez while he was actually standing at court. And I will say this, it's disgusting because Juan Perez is a Hispanic who served in the United States military. He served in the police department. He received no support from the Hispanic Society. Let me say that again. No support because Juan Perez is not in a position to benefit. He's not in a position to get people promoted. And that's what I see. These awards are all part of nepotism tied to corruption. People see it as a benefit. And I promise you, if Ed Caban steps down, no longer will he get support from these fraternal organizations. He may still get support from the Hispanic Society because there was a lot of promotions of Hispanics on the police department right now tied to Hispanic Society. But if Ed Caban is found guilty by the public, or if he's found guilty in a court of law for corruption, the Hispanic Society will turn their back on him too.
Yeah, I mean, these fraternal organizations, first of all, I really don't see any good thing they do. If I had to join one of them, I would join the Hispanic Society because at least they do stick together and they do throw awesome parties. So I would, if I was going to be me right now, I would, I pulled my stuff back from the Columbia Association. I'm no longer associated with them. I believe they're cowardly and they don't represent average Italian Americans. So I don't want anything to do with that organization whatsoever. And so I'm done with that organization. But I think all of these fraternal organizations are really there just to further nepotism amongst their ranks, right? Amongst their members. And, it's a real divide and conquer strategy too on the part of the upper echelon, right? So whoever's in power is close to them. But yeah, if Ed Caban wasn't able to promote these people, nobody would be standing with him. If Ed Caban was just a police officer in the 4A precinct, he was just a sergeant in the 4A precinct, if he was just a regular Joe Schmo, nobody's giving him Person of the Year. That's one, right? Because and by all means, the average cop, the average lieutenant, the average sergeant, the average captain has done way more to deserve to be awarded than Ed Caban has at his entire time as the police commissioner. He's done absolutely nothing. But if he was one of them and he's enthralled in this scandal, not only would they not give him an award, they wouldn't even help him. They wouldn't even go to his court dates. They wouldn't even go to his trial. Right? So it's really, are you really there for furthering people, or are you there for furthering yourself? And, I think it's absolutely disgusting that even if you support Ed Caban and it turns out he did nothing wrong, I think it's disgusting to be celebrating this on social media. I think for right now, you guys should have all just stayed out of it. And I think at the end of the day, if Ed Caban resigns, that post and these posts are just not going to age well. Sorry, when he resigns. And, by everything that's coming out, I mean, do you have any detectives amongst your ranks? Do you have any people that have the ability to look and see what's going on? Can you properly assess an allegation as a police officer if your eyebrows aren't raised right now? I mean, should you even be employed by the New York City Police Department?
I think it causes further distrust for the police officer, the community. The fact that, again, we're talking about the rank and file here. We have to talk about the rank and file. We support the rank and file because who is important to the police department right now, who's on the ground fighting, trying to keep the city safe? It's the rank and file with their boots on the ground. And this is just a slap in the face of the boots on the ground by these fraternal organizations by seeking out their own political and financial benefit because they're getting promotions. They're getting benefits. That's why they put people of a higher rank in these positions and these titles of man of the year. We don't see lower ranks get these awards because it's a benefit for them. But I think, and they put it all over social media, I think it causes more of a distrust with the community and the cops that are actually on the street. Say, wait a minute. Your top cop, your police commissioner is being investigated for corruption. Or he's being probed, right? It's not an official investigation. There's no allegations, but he's being probed.
So, I'm sorry. I thought you were
No. But I'm saying he's being probed, and yet the fraternal organizations are still supporting him, and that is just another blight for the cops. Again, just causes further distrust. That's the part that's disgusting. I mean, most of the people in these fraternal organizations are fellow cops. And to me, it's just a slap in the face to your fellow cops that you clearly don't care about. Back to blue, all this stuff. Really? Is it really back to blue? All you're doing is back in higher ranks that could put you in a better position and promote you. Let's be honest. We get the list of promotions. Who are they promoting? They're promoting us back. I know. It looks like you're getting some good information. Put it out.
All right. So listen, at this time, I want to bring up to the stage Juan Perez. Juan was he was wrongfully convicted of assault after he was attacked on New York City streets responding to a 911 call by emotionally disturbed person. Emotionally disturbed person put Juan Perez in a chokehold. Juan Perez overcame the assault, deployed 6 punches in 6 seconds, and almost 2 years after the incident was arrested by Alvin Bragg's office and prosecuted and found guilty. He had his day in court yesterday, where he was sentenced and he was given a conditional release. Juan Perez did absolutely nothing wrong. We appreciate all the support that you guys have given him. And we're going to bring him up right now to get his thoughts. I'd like to welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Juan Perez, police officer, retired New York City police officer, Juan Perez. Juan, thanks for joining us, brother.
Yeah. What's up, Eric? John,
What's up, brother? Congratulations. God bless. You know what? You went through a hard time, but you came out clean. We support you, brother. Juan, not kidding. Every police officer is you, and you are every police officer. So if you want to tell about your story, tell about your triumph, and tell about what you've been through. And
I wouldn't consider it a triumph, though. I mean, we're glad you're not in jail. We're glad that you didn't get put in jail. But, again, you did nothing wrong. He did police work, and he was found guilty of assault at the end of the day. And I don't consider it a triumph. I'm glad you're not in jail, but I still think this is a travesty. I think it's a travesty. I do.
Well, you're right. It's a travesty, but it's a triumph at this point for the fact that he's still standing and he's still proud and showing that he's facing adversity. So that's
absolutely the perseverance. Juan, tell us about it.
All right. So first of all, good morning. Good to see you guys. I want to thank you guys for all the time that you guys have reached out. You guys have been supportive throughout this last 2 years. I want to thank a lot of people that are retired that were supporting me also. It's been a long 2 years. Actually, this started in 2021. The rumbling of this whole case started in 2021 when the incident happened. It was like I'm coming to work. I'm hearing that something's going to come through. Something's not going to come through. The indictment is coming through. The indictment that's coming through. The day in question that this happened, I was working. I got called to McDougal Street. This guy was in the street acting erratic in the middle of the street, just going crazy. There was these Uber Eats guys that were just going to beat the crap out of this guy, So I get there. I try to sit the guy down. I try to talk to him. I'm working with a newly, new rookie officer. He really doesn't know much, Great kid, but he's like, he doesn't know his way around. So I'm trying to take control of the whole situation. Out of nowhere, this guy just stands up and looks like he's gonna, attack me or whatever. I sit him down again. I tell my partner to move the car. In a split second, the guy gets up. He goes, grabs me. I grab him. I put him towards the wall. We fall to the ground. When I try to get up, he grabs me by my leg. I fall back. I fall on top of him instead. And then he puts his arm around my neck. And at that time, I don't know who's behind me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. It's very fast. It's like in a matter of split seconds when things like this happen. And it's like you guys said, you're in the heat of, a fight. And we've seen plenty of times during riots and civil unrest that there's cops that are, dealing with someone or dealing with a perp and trying to get a perp under control, and somebody in the crowd come and attacks them. So now you don't only got to worry about yourself, you got to worry about who's behind you, or who could come out of the crowd and try to hurt you while you're trying to subdue somebody. So I punched this guy rapidly 6 times in the face. I'm sorry. You hear me? You see me there?
Yeah, we got you. You're good, bro.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Just so happens the guy was drunk. He went unconscious. We all know that when you're drunk, if you fucking stumble your feet, you're going to fucking feel like you're going to pass out. This became a big thing because the family abandoned the guy. The family didn't want nothing to do with him. He was, in the street by himself. The family had abandoned him a long time ago. And they sent him off to Kosovo. In Kosovo, he committed suicide. Nothing was an issue until the guy committed suicide. The family wanted to blame somebody for their faults because they abandoned him. And then they went to Alvin Bragg's office. But the funny part about this is the job investigated this, you see? And this was investigated by the force group. And this was investigated up and down. And we both know that NYPD is quick to hammer you if they see something wrong.
100%.
When it comes to anything that has to do with force. You know what I'm saying? We know that. So they went directly to Alvin Bragg's office, started screaming, started crying that, their son killed himself in Kosovo. And because of me, I'm the reason that their son is dead. No, the reason their son is dead because you guys abandoned your son, and you left him in the street to be in the middle of the sidewalk. Prior to this, he had even approached the female, and he tried harassing a female. He tried hitting a female, and the civilian witness that we brought in, he stated that prior to the interaction of him interacting with me, he was going to hurt a female on the street, and he had to get involved. And that's how he became the witness in my case. But I got found guilty. But through the grace of God, prayers and support, yesterday was a good day. Thanks to Stu London, great lawyer. He helped me a lot. He's been a big support system. And thanks to you guys also, So it hasn't been easy. The last 2 years were a pain in the ass.
Juan, let me ask you this. How do you feel about the support that you've gotten? Obviously, we support you, and our friends that listen to the podcast, they've been supporting you also. But how do you feel about the support or lack of support that you've gotten for fellow cops? Or how about the Hispanic Society? Because we're talking about the support that Ed Caban's getting for the Hispanic Society. Did you get any support from the Hispanic Society, whether it was emotionally, financially? Did they contact you? Did you get any support from them?
So listen, it's like I speak to John, I speak to everybody else, and this is what I'm gonna say, and this is how people know me, and this is why I don't have many friends, and I'm not liked, and I've always been honest. And after today, I probably might lose a couple of friends and gain a couple of friends, but I really don't care. And I'm gonna shoot. I'm a straight shooter, so I'm gonna say use myself as an example of what people should do moving forward. Okay. The last 2 years, the support really wasn't there. I had to scream, I had to fight and shout for it. Okay. This whole thing started under Pat Lynch, when Pat Lynch was in office. I remember seeing Pat Lynch at 1PP and asking him, you know, what's the possibility about this? You know, what's going on? I've never been in this situation. He says, oh, no, you know, you're going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. No, everything's fine. Total bullshit. No support there. I do have to say, Patrick Henry is a perfect gentleman. He's been a perfect gentleman to me. I think there was a little bit of politics involved in the transition of when Patrick Lynch went and Patrick Henry came in. And I did have a couple of fallouts with some people. And then we ironed a couple of things out and things did come. The relationship did get better. But at no time should an officer be going into court alone like I was doing. At no time should a person that's going through this, because we gotta look at the bigger picture here. I'm in there for defending myself. I'm in there for defending myself on duty.
You're in there for doing your job.
What happened?
You're in there for doing your job.
Exactly. I'm not in there for fucking racketeering. I'm not in there for anything that has to do with malicious integrity. I'm in there because I got called on 911 call on duty. Okay? Now, you could say, oh, you know, JC, he's kind of abrasive. You know, this guy, you know, he's kind of rough around the edges. He's just, yeah, I'm all those things because I'm not a bullshitter. I'm not full of shit, and I don't eat shit. And I'm not a hypocrite. So when you're not those things, people say, look, he's not eating the bowl of shit that we put in front of him. Everybody is. Everybody else eats shit. Why isn't he eating shit? No, we can't deal with him. And that's the problem. The support of my peers wasn't there, and that's fine. Because I've always been a resilient person. I've always been a person that has weathered through adversity. The prayers that I've received through my friends, my father's friend, you know, my best friend's father, a lot of people, you guys, your prayers. You know, I was driving to court. My friend in Arizona, I know him for a long time. His name is Moisha. His father was praying for me. His mother was crying. I had him on FaceTime. They were reading from the Torah. They were standing there. They were at the synagogue. You know, the father was crying. And it's amazing that, you know, I have these people that are in my corner from different cultures that we know each other from such a long time. And it's amazing how God brings people together, because he's reading to me from the Bible and it's in Hebrew and I'm not understanding what he's saying, but you could feel the presence, you know? And I'm driving and my sister's with me, you know, and I thank God everything worked out, but the support wasn't there. People that, you know, and I know people have their own things going on, but let me tell you this. I'm the type of person, you tell me you have an issue, I try to do the best that I can to help you. If you would have told me, listen, bro, I got this going on, I would have listened. I can't be there every day, but I'm going to try to be there as much as I can. Nobody would show up. You know, the PBA showed up, the board. That's a beautiful thing. I appreciate it. But cops themselves that every day are in the street, that are every day interacting with each other. You guys see each other every day. You go to details every day. Moving forward, use me as an example. Use me as an example. Moving forward, don't wait until somebody tells you should show up to court for your fellow cop. Everyone should be there. And it's fine if I see people. There's no ill will. I weathered the storm. I'll say, hey, how you doing? It's all good. To the Hispanic Society, Joe Ayala, he wrote a letter. Thank you. I appreciate it. But every day that I was in that courtroom, there should have been somebody from that fraternity in there. There should have been somebody in there with me from my precinct. There should have been a magnitude of cops showing presence, because this came down to political political BS. You know, this came down to Alvin Bragg trying to hang a cop. That's all it came down to.
Juan, I just want to say this, Juan. I just want to say this. We know you're a resilient person. I've got to meet you because of this, right? And I say it's things like this that put us all together, right? John and myself and yourself, we became friendly, and we became friends because of this. But no matter how strong you are, I consider myself, a really strong person. I think I have extremely strong will. I'm physically strong, but I'm far more mentally strong.
Yeah.
Same thing with John. And I saw myself in you. I had 8 sets of administrative charges in a 6-week period, and I was left alone.
Yeah.
And the same thing with you. Nobody should be left alone. Nobody should have to go through this alone, especially a New York City police officer, when we're told that we're a family and we have 30,000 brothers and sisters behind us. So I get it. I know you're strong, but we all need support. And our friends that listen to the podcast, they're supporting you.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need to push each other. You should not have to do this alone. I'm sure John has some thoughts.
I got a call from a good friend of mine yesterday, and we were talking, and I said, listen, bygones are bygones. I'm not mad at anyone for not being there. But what I said was, look at what was done wrong with me. I said, I'm already done. I said, you don't think in the climate that we're in, there's going to be more Juan Perez's? You don't think there's going to be more South Provenzanos? I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg, okay? I said, moving forward, everybody should be up and on me. Say, yeah, some people are scared. I said, wait a minute. I said, they're scared because there's no strength in the numbers. I said, if everybody sticks together, there's no way that anybody should be scared. He's like, yeah, you're right. Great guy, but I feel that everybody's trying to cover their ass and nobody's looking out for one another. And that's what the police department has came to.
100%. So listen, everybody, we got about 1,820 people on here. We appreciate everybody for joining. We were talking about another corruption scandal embroiling New York City Mayor Eric Adams' appointees, the corruption scandal around Police Commissioner Ed Caban, numerous officials in the NYPD, top officials. But we actually took a break from that. We now have forced retired police officer Juan Perez on here. He was convicted of assault 3 for responding to a 911 call and where he was attacked. He overcame the attack. He deployed 6 punches in 6 seconds. Almost 2 years after the incident, he was arrested by Alvin Bragg, convicted. Yesterday, he was sentenced, and he was released on a conditional release. He's not going to serve jail time, so we're happy about it, although we do believe that this is a travesty that a police officer has to face this. So we appreciate you for the 1,800 people on here. If you guys could like, share, and subscribe and share this space out. And let's get a few people in here to show Juan some support. Juan, I got to ask you a question, though. You had called me when you were still active. You had spoken to myself and Eric. And obviously, we put a little pressure on the PBA. And in the long run, they came through and they did the right thing, even though they weren't at first. But they did do the right thing, and I'll give them kudos. I don't believe that you should have even needed to advocate for yourself or had other parties advocating for you at that time. You were not in good mental states, as nobody should have been in. Nobody would be in, obviously. You are being arrested for doing your job. You're being under threat of going to jail for doing your job. So I actually have 2 questions for you. One, did mental health and wellness ever reached out to you during this time? And 2, what do you believe would happen to you? Because you did reach out to us and you asked us what you should do. And we both told you that you should put your papers in and retire and get your pension and your benefits. Or because if you are convicted, although we reviewed the video and we didn't see anything wrong with it, the state of New York City's anti-police DAs are looking to go after the NYPD when it's lower ranks, obviously, because when we see with the upper echelon, then no one's looking to put anybody on those people in jail. But, what do you believe would happen to you if you didn't retire?
If I didn't retire, I would have been terminated. 17 years down the drain, 3 years that I served the military, that served the country, would have been down the drain. I would have been down the drain. And it was a very hard decision to make because I believe in fighting to the end. And I said, you know what, I should stay on. But legal counsel had said, listen, you need to retire. You guys had told me, listen, you need to. Eric kept telling me you have to go. You have to. The minute you reach that 20 mark, you need to go. He says, when is your day? He says, put the paperwork in. And I remember him telling me, you should have put it in a long time ago. And I was like, I'm still waiting. He said, what are you waiting for? He's like, what are you waiting for? Time is not on your side. And thank God I finally wound up doing it. And I didn't leave, the way I wanted to. But looking back right now, that doesn't even matter. I remember I was pissed off about my good guy letter, my carry perm, and all that other stuff. And my idea said, at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. I'm just happy that I got my pension. I'm far and away from that job,
Yeah, Sal Greco actually says, congrats, Juan. Thank God you are safe. We're getting a lot of support for you in the chat.
Thank you, Sal. Thank you. So
Juan, can you answer that? Did mental health contact you? That's really important to know.
Yeah. So mental health is a waste of time. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. They should just get rid of that unit, because when they go to the precincts, I'm not even going to use myself as an example. So I'm going to let's take JC out of the equation. Mental health in the NYPD, the unit should just be taken out, because when something happens to an officer, if an officer passes away or something tragic happens in the precincts, they come, they walk around, they look at you up and down, they give out a couple of flyers, and they leave. And they did their job. That's not helping anyone. And as we've seen over the years, the stresses of the job, the headaches that come with it, the internal stresses. One year, how many suicides did we have in the NYPD? I think it was 10 in a couple of years ago. It hit 10, like 10 or 11 cops that committed suicide. Am I right?
Yeah, no, we're still having it, by the way, like once a month, once or twice a month.
That's all BS. That unit is just BS. I really don't care for them. Every time they would come around, I said, these guys are full of shit anyway. So,
Juan, we got a comment here from Patrick Jordan. He was a former chief from Los Angeles County. He's become a friend to the podcast. Patrick Jordan, good morning. He says, and I think this is spot on, fair and just prosecutions is an organization funded by Soros, which expects Soros DAs prosecute no matter what it takes. And I think that's spot on, because Juan, you and I spoke, and we both felt, well, Provenzano got off, and they're going to convict you. And we both agree that this was politics. You get one, and we get one. And it's unfortunate that we don't feel you got a fair trial. So could you tell our friends and listeners to the podcast, is the PBA attorneys going to pursue an appeal on your conviction? Because, yes, I believe it's a triumph in the sense that you're still facing adversity. It's a triumph that you've made it this far, because I do believe that without support, you would have possibly faced some sentencing. It's horrible that you're in this position, but I do believe you turned something bad to something good. Will the PBA continue to, the attorneys continue to fund, and will they pursue an appeal?
Like I said, I'm an honest person. The PBA has been in the forefront. Stu London did a great job yesterday at sentencing. Shout out to Stu London. That's my man right there. We lost, due to, we feel what was, at the moment was a wrongful conviction, but the sentencing, he did a hell of a job. His assistant, this new guy up and comer, his name is Stuart Gold. This guy's really great, really detailed, really nice guy. They're working on the appeal as we speak. And yesterday, immediately when we left the courthouse, I do got to give respect and my kudos. And I want to thank Patrick Henry for being on the forefront. And the board, listen, those guys really came out. They were on the forefront. They were on the first row. And they were literally yesterday, I saw their game face. Oh, their game face was on. Like I told Stuart London yesterday, I said yesterday, the PBA board, you could tell that these guys were not, they weren't having no shit if I would have been sentenced to any jail time. They were not gonna let that happen, So I'm very happy for that, and I want to thank Patrick Henry for that. So they are working on the appeal as we speak, and moving forward, that is happening. Yes.
So, Matt O'Brien has a good question on here. He says, JC, was it a jury trial? Could you just tell the audience about that, like the decision you had to make,
That was
and why
that was
you
a
made it? Because this is what New
yeah.
York City police officers are facing.
So
when you
listen,
said-
so listen to this. This is knowledge that I'm gonna tell people for the future. So when I went to the grand jury for the indictment, when I was being interviewed, it's literally a jury. It's really a jury of your peers. It's people that live in the surrounding counties of New York. So what do we have in New York right now? Liberal Democrats, correct? We don't like the cops. Nobody likes the police. I didn't stand a chance in the grand jury, so I got indicted. There was no chance. So I always kept hope. But it's like a lot of attorneys have told me, I have attorney friends, they've told me, if this was in Staten Island or Queens, you wouldn't be in this position. If you were in Nassau County or Suffolk County, you wouldn't be in this position. You're in Liberal City and you're in Manhattan under Bragg. So that went south. So in my mind, I said two things. I saw Sal's case. He went bench. So I kind of used that as a formula. I went to one of Sal's trial dates one time because I was working at the time. I was doing my gig that I was working recently. And I said, you know what? I think I should go bench. I think this is the best form of action to go bench. I said, because if I go jury with a Manhattan jury, New York peers, nobody likes the cops. The environment we're in, they're gonna sink me. So we went bench.
And one more question for you before you go, Eric. This is coming in from my visual zone. Did anyone of note send letters of support for sentencing, wondering who actually put their name on something for you? Any NYPD brass?
No NYPD brass put their name. And thank you for that. That's a good question because I got to thank Bob Holden, Councilman Bob Holden. May God bless him. God bless his office and the people that work with him in Mashpeth, Queens. There's a couple of people I want to thank. First, I want to thank John, Eric. I want to thank God, of course, my family. I want to thank Mike Palazzo, Pat Palazzo from Nassau County. All right. Tommy Grace. I want to thank Tommy Grace, retired PD. There's so many people that Moisha, he's living down in Arizona. There's so many people that I want to thank, but no NYPD brass personnel put their name on paper for me, okay? But a councilman did, Bob Holden of the Common Sense Caucus, and he got other councilmen to sign off on that. Louis Valentine, he also helped me, retired sergeant. Steven Spataro, retired deputy inspector, okay? A lot of people came out and saw the bullshit that was going on here, but nobody active wanted to put their name behind my their name on paper behind me.
Well, and that's another problem that we talk about, right? We talk about the leadership of the NYPD is not putting others before they put themselves. I mean, unfortunately, if you were a member of the CRT team, if you're in khaki pants and you're close to the king, then you'll have a different treatment. That's why I say the NYPD is now a 3-tiered system.
Well, we saw it, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Why is it?
We want to hear you
speak.
Okay? This is your time, brother.
Why is it okay? And it's on video that a guy gets kicked in the face. The guy goes into a seizure. And who's this? This guy's a lieutenant, I believe. This guy.
Yeah, it was a guy, Lieutenant Nicholas Stephanopoulos. The CRT team. And he actually came at me and Eric on social media, calling us rats and telling us we better stop the podcast. And you're right. He didn't kick the guy in the head. He head stomped him.
Exactly.
He stepped on the guy's head.
Exactly. That was on video. That happened in Manhattan, correct?
That happened in Manhattan. After
where was Alvin Bragg's office on that? I'm gonna be a rat right now. I'm gonna be a rat, and I'm gonna put Stephanopoulos on the red carpet. And I'm not a hard guy to find, bro. If you got a problem with me, where's Alvin Bragg's office? Why wasn't that referred to Alvin Bragg's office? The guy wasn't fighting. The guy was on the ground, head down first, correct?
He was face down on the ground with 2 police officers on top of him while he was having a convulsion because the lieutenant had just cold clocked him when he had his hands up like this.
Okay. So
And
then he
that's
gets
why-
kicked while he's on the ground.
Then while he's having a convulsion,
stomped. Yeah.
I'm actively fighting with this guy, and I get arrested. So it's pick and choose. That's what it comes down to.
And Franco is 100% right. Juan, I don't want to interrupt you, but NYPD brass are all cowards. They're only going to serve their own egos, and they're going to only help those that benefit them. The CRT team, which is khaki pants, Clore, it's a pure line of nepotism. Again, I said nepotism is in correlation to corruption because he got a complete different standard by the New York City Police Department. He was modified. Let's our friends and listeners to the podcast just think about that. This lieutenant, who's a supervisor, which is supposed to be heavily weighed by the discipline matrix for the New York City Police Department, which John and I talk about all the time, stopped someone on their head, and he was modified. What is modification for anyone who's not NYPD or a civilian? It means they remove your firearms and it's duty status. Juan Perez was summoned to a 911 call. They called him. He responded. He went to help. He was being choked. He overcame adversity, and he deployed 6 strikes, and he was convicted of a misdemeanor assault. And not one chief, not one member of the upper echelon of the police department had his back. And that's why I always say it's the pressures, it's the internal pressures of the NYPD that leads to suicide. You would never contact, this huge red flag, you had never contacted by mental health and wellness. Neither was I, neither was John. This is the problem with the system. So, Juan, you are a perfect example. That's why you turn something bad into something good so that someone else does not become you. And that's why we do these things. And that's why we need your story. And I'm glad that you said that and that we can make the comparison because it's completely unfair.
Absolutely.
Before you go on, I just want to reset this. We got a couple of hundred more people just joined. So guys, for those of you that don't know, we got 2,200 people in here right now. If you guys could like, share, subscribe.
A lot of guys find me interesting, especially guys on patrol. I ran into a lot of guys from different boroughs. They like me. They said, this guy takes no shit.
Hold on 1 second, Juan. Hold on. I just want to reset this so everyone knows what's going on. We're talking to a police officer, retired police officer Juan Perez, who was just sentenced yesterday and convicted of assault 3 by Alvin Bragg's office for doing his job. At sentencing, he was met with a conditional discharge. Sorry, Juan, go.
I said you probably get a lot of followers after today because a lot of guys, I used to meet a lot of guys at details, and when I was down in the bookings, and you know, I was kind of like an entertainer. So I remember we would be like at details, and I would like get together with a couple of guys, and I was always cracking jokes. So a lot of guys took a liking to me. You know, I wasn't really liked about a lot of bosses because I didn't see eye to eye with some of the stuff that some bosses would do. But a lot of bosses I did like. I ran into some good supervisors while my time was there. So, but yeah, listen. Moving forward, if you're ever in a bad position with the job, make sure you remember this. Your life is more important. Don't ever try to do something to hurt yourself because of anything bad. You know, we see cases of guys that get into a really bad place and they do some really ridiculous things. And it's a sad outcome. You know, it's a sad outcome for some of the cops that go through certain difficulties with the NYPD, you know?
Oh, I gotta laugh at this. I'm sorry. This is hysterical. Sal Greco show. If Juan would have hung out at Concerto in the Bronx, I wonder if he would have been disciplined for anything since Tish James was there all the time with plenty of convicted felons. Spot on, brother. That's hysterical. You know what? Juan, listen. Since day one, John, myself, and Sal, we've been behind you, brother. We support you. We see you in ourselves. That's why I said immediately, I said, it's more important that you have your dignity than police identity, right? If you remember, I told you
Absolutely.
Right? You don't need the ID card to know what you did. You don't need the good guy letter to know who you are. That's why, you know, listen, Viral News just tried to smear my name and said that I turned my back on the LBA. I did not listen to the advice of the LBA because they gave me bad advice. Lou Turco gave me bad advice and told me to wait and let it play out. If I would have waited, I would have been terminated. I put my papers in while I still had charges. And then once the CCRB saw that, they wanted a piece of blood, they wanted a piece of meat, and they came and they offered me a deal. And I said, all right, fine, I'll take the deal. And they took 45 days. I had already lost 18 days to another CCRB, and they took 45. So I put my papers in, and they gave me the good guy letter, and I didn't get my terminal leave because I had to forfeit 60-something some odd days. But you know what? You have your dignity. You don't need NYPD identity. You know who you are, and that's my message.
My dad always resonated in my ear. He always told me, listen, they could never. He always told me this: at the end of the day, no matter what you do in your life, no matter what job you hold, no matter what title you have, he says, remember one thing. He calls me Carlos. He says, as long as you are Carlos, at the end of the day, Carlos Perez, and you know that you are a good person, he says none of that other shit matters. He says all of that other shit is temporary. You know.
No, so true, my friend. Yeah, no, listen, we're glad that you're here. We're glad that you're joining us. We're glad that we're not making commissary calls. But I will say, you know, your stories is your story really is a cautionary tale. It's a real cautionary tale for the New York City police officers. And you know, and there were a lot of things that were done wrong. I mean, I know the PBA came through for you in the end. But there were a lot of things that were done wrong by this administration, by the PBA, by your fraternal organization, that I think this should be a learning moment.
Absolutely.
I think it should be a learning moment. I think
Absolutely.
everybody should see where the gaps are, where the void are. I mean, New York City police officers are under attack. They're not just attack on the streets in New York City. They're under attack in the halls of city council. They're under attack by Alvin Bragg, woke DAs like Alvin Bragg, who look and attack them. And, you know, I'm not sitting here to bash the PBA or to bash the Hispanic society about this at all. I just think it should be a learning moment, and I think that we should really reflect on what happened. Because I'll be honest with you, dude, there were a lot of times we were worried about you. I spoke to Eric offline about you a lot. Eric spoke about you.
I was in a bad place. I'm going to tell you something. I was in a bad place. There was a time that I was in a really bad place. And like always, even though I was in that bad place, I wouldn't show it. I would still go out. I would still hang out with friends. But when I was home alone, there was I had a couple of bad moments in my house. I had a couple of bad moments. You know, sheetrock was, you know, repaired before I got out of there. A lot of stuff, you know, it was just a lot of frustration, a lot of hurt. Being alone was very bad because, you know, my father comes and goes, but he doesn't live with me. I live alone. So when you're alone, and there's nobody to be there with you at night, that's when they say the demons come in, you know, and you start thinking and your mind starts fucking with you. It was a pretty bad moment, you know.
Juan, you know, we never turned our back on you, and we never will.
Yeah.
You know, friends and listeners podcast. You got yourself, John. How many people listening right now? Just to show Juan how many people support. How many people listening right now?
About 2,339 people now, to be exact.
Let's ramp it up to 3,000.
Well, there's about 3,000 that are going to listen today, but this will be watched close to 20,000 times between our audios. About 50,000 people will listen and know the story of Juan Perez. So with that being said, Juan, I commend you, brother. I love your attitude. You know why? You're a man, brother. We talked about this. They emasculate the police department. John is no longer on the job. I'm no longer on the job. You're no longer on the job. Sal Greco, many others that are masculine men that should be in the police department. But you know what?
Absolutely.
We're on this path now. We turn something bad into something good. So how are you? What is going to be your path moving forward to turn something bad into something good? And if you can tell the friends and listeners to the podcast how they can find you on social media, if they want to show you support and befriend you, and if you're going to start some movement to help cops, I hope you do. Give us your thoughts.
Absolutely. My thing is, you know, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to go probably get a quick vacation somewhere, get the hell out of this area. And then probably reconvene when I come back. You know, pick your brain, pick Eric's brain, pick John's brain, and see what we could do to help the cops that are scared to, while you're active, you do have to be careful when you're active as a cop, what you do say, who do you reach out to, because it's like this could bite me in the ass. But I want to create a platform that cops don't have to be, scared to speak, that nobody's going to oust them out. That nobody, like, you want to call and you want to say, my name is, I used to use the terminology a lot on patrol. Hey, my name is Mickey Mouse Cop. All right, Mickey Mouse Cop, tell me what's going on, bro. Nobody's going to rat you out here. Nobody's going to throw you under the bus here, because whatever problems you have, you could speak to me. You could speak to us, and I'm here to help you. And I could tell you what I've been through,
Yeah, no, we love it. We love it, dude. So listen,
So
Juan,
cops,
you're
a
here.
lot of cops, especially now moving forward, especially in the environment that we're in, we had 20 and out. And when we came in, we came in a time that, policing was still good. 2006, when I came in, people still had the love for the police. Now cops are coming in, and this just every corner they look at, nobody wants the police. Nobody wants to deal with them. Who do they turn to? Even when they're surrounded by their peers, who do they turn to when their peers aren't there? They don't have the backing of city council. They don't have the backing of the police department. Obviously, that's not happening. So what happens when a cop is alone? What happens when a cop doesn't have anybody? What happens when the cop is alone? We want to create a platform. You're not alone, man. Reach out to us. Don't be scared. You ever need help? Because the cop's biggest fear is, if I reach out to the job, I can get modified. If I reach out to any organizations, they could probably tell on me, or they could probably, this could probably go south, and I don't want to get hurt. So mental health and awareness is big in the NYP, and a lot of people need help with that too.
Well, listen, welcome to the Finest Unfiltered. Welcome. It's a pleasure to join. You got to get yourself on X, get yourself on Instagram, put your name out there loud and proud, and let's get in the fight. So we're talking about the corruption scandal, the potential corruption scandal involving the NYPD. What's your thoughts around New York City's NYPD's police commissioner, Ed Caban? He's being accused that his twin brother was running a cabaret consulting firm, and he was running around with an NYPD taxpayer-funded security detail. And they were basically installing their own security agents under the guise of, if you pay my consulting firm and hire my security guards, nothing will happen to you from the NYPD. Or if you have any problems, we could help take care of them. What are your thoughts around that, if that is true?
So, like we say, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, correct? Correct, Eric? Can you hear me?
Except for you. You were guilty.
Yeah. I'm gonna get to that. So everyone is innocent. Yeah, I was just gonna get to that. That was a trick question.
I figured that. But Juan, before you go ahead, this guy's been on fire today. I don't know who he is, but Son of Sam, this guy's hysterical. His comments are hilarious today. Juan should open up a cabaret business, a cabaret consulting firm. It seems like a lucrative business. But yeah, Juan, unfortunately, you were guilty from the start. But you get into it, brother. Thank you.
But this is the thing. If we do something wrong, if a cop goes out, and it just so happens that the cop had a couple of drinks, and this is where people don't like me, because my tongue, when I open my mouth, my tongue does not speak lies. And this is why I lose friends, and I gain friends, and I lose friends over the years, because my mouth does not lie. You could ask me any question, and I'll tell you, no, I haven't been an altar boy my whole life. I've had off-duty incidents. I had, whatever. You go look up my 58. But what's good for you, the rule book has to be the rule book for everyone. And the rule book and the NYPD is not the same. They bring out the rule book for everybody differently, and that's a problem. Okay? So we know that for the good order of the department, that's what they tell you. They tell you, hey, listen, you got to pack up, because you're going on highway therapy for the good order of the department. You're going on highway therapy because, yeah, we understand, you had a little dispute, or you had a DWI, or you had a little off-duty altercation or you had something problem in your personal life, for the good duty order of the department, you have to go sit down for 2 years while we figure this out. 3 years, you got to sit down. There's guys that have sat down in a room staring at a wall and they did nothing wrong. Okay? For the good order of the department. So if you're asking me the question, and I want you to ask me the question directly, and I'm going to give you a direct answer. Go ahead.
What should happen to Ed Caban? Whether he's guilty or not, right now, what should happen to Ed Caban right now?
He should not be there. He should step down. He should step down or he should be removed. Because if that was anyone else, if that was a cop, if that was a supervisor, a sergeant, a lieutenant, there would be no questions asked. There would be like, in the middle of the night, hey, how you doing? Sergeant such and such, Lieutenant such and such from Internal Affairs Bureau came to me. They came to my house when I had an off-duty incident that I was defending myself against 3 perps. Look how the NYPD works. So I defended myself against 3 perps. Internal Affairs goes back and collars them for a home invasion. They were outstanding on a home invasion. And I still got modified because I was so scared at the time because I only had like 5 years on. My first incident with the job. I failed to notify them. They turned my life upside down. But they collared these guys. So in other words, I closed out a burglary pattern in the 9-0, but I got modified. You know? So...
Well, that's why I think it's important that we highlight this stuff, right? Because here, right, and I think that you're humble to admit that you've had situations in the police department, right?
A lot of people.
We all learn, we all get better, and that's why we're more valued as we become become veterans in the police department. We age, we grow, we change, we become better, we get educated, and you're responsible.
A lot of people in the NYPD come to work with a smile on their face. But when they leave those doors, hell is waiting for them outside. They have problems. They're human beings. Things are going to happen. If you're living in the inner city, something's going to wind up happening. If you're going to work on that job 20 years, 25 years, you're going to wind up running into some situation. People say, oh, you know, if a person has a domestic, how many fucking times don't you argue with your wife, John?
Oh, maybe my wife never argues with me. Nah.
Everybody knows that domestic dispute is
he
a
learned to
domestic
concede.
dispute. You know?
Juan, I talked about this earlier. Good leaders know when to pick and choose their battles, and they also know when to concede. And good husbands, they know what to
say. But listen, it's just an analogy. So we know that there's domestic disputes all the time in the NYPD. That's a big one. He got modified for domestic. People are gonna have fucking problems. You know, it happens, and I understand in our line of work, you know, there's a weapon involved, but they make it to the point that the person, if they don't make it better, they make it so hard for the cop to come back. You know, and it's just so bad. It's so bad. But the main question that we were on was, should these people not be in their positions? I'm going to say this, and it's like somebody told me. Throughout your time, you know, you had a couple of stumps in the road. I said yes, and I was taken out of my precinct. I was put in Viper. Maybe that should happen until all this thing clears up. That's what I say. This should be done until this whole thing clears up. And like John said yesterday, if there's no ripples in the water, bring them back. That's it.
Juan, I got a question for you, Juan. Let's talk about indemnification. This is a great photo right here. If you see it, Juan, this is the article that came out in Post, right? And what do we see here? We see Banks, who's been clouded by suspicion, but also we see Timothy Pearson, who has 4 separate sexual allegations. It has nothing to do with the scope of his employment. And he is indemnified because of Eric Adams.
Man, I got to tell you something.
But here you are. Hear me out. Here you are as a police officer. You've been convicted for an assault, for a 911 call you were summoned to. What's going on right now? Is there a civil trial of a lawsuit against you? And are you indemnified? Could you advise our listeners and friends of the podcast?
So once you get department charges from the advocate's office, the advocate, if many of you don't know that are listening from outside states, the advocate is the NYPD's internal district assistant district attorneys. They are the people that draw up the cases to punish the cops. So that's the trial room. The advocate issues department charges. So indemnification looks at it. Okay, he's not. You guys are still there?
Yeah, we're here, bro.
It says he violated a regulation in his job, so now we can't indemnify him. So once you receive charges, they're not going to indemnify you. So in my case, I'm going to give you the perfect example. I went down to corporation counsel before I got indicted. They were representing me. They found no wrongdoing. I got indicted. I got departmental charges. I got a letter in the mail saying, now we're not representing you. So in the beginning, corporation counsel was representing me. They found nothing wrong. They saw the video. They were willing to pick up this case and representation. But because the Manhattan DA's office indicted me, and I wound up getting department charges because they have to mirror the same. Once you get indicted, the department has to give you a 30-day suspension, and they have to give you departmental charges. You're no longer under indemnification representation from the city of New York. They're no longer under that umbrella.
Yeah. So we got about 2,600 people in here right now. For those of you that just joined in, we're talking to police officer Juan Perez, retired police officer Juan Perez, who was wrongfully indicted, convicted, and sentenced for doing his job, basically. He was assault 3. He was attacked by an emotionally disturbed person. Thankfully, he didn't have to serve jail time, but he has this blight on his record going forward. So we're going through what he's facing, as well as the blatant allegations of corruption surrounding the Eric Adams administration. And Eric, I think it's a brilliant point that you brought up, and for all you cops out there that are listening, Juan was not indemnified as it went forward, as it went down and went forward, meaning that not only will he be responsible for any legal ramifications, he's responsible for any civil settlements that come out of it as well. For a time, Juan was on his own. He got a little noise made from the likes of this podcast and others, and then the PBA gracefully then came in and represented Juan. But other than that, there was no support for the upper echelon of the NYPD for Juan Perez. There was no support from the health and wellness section of Juan Perez. And we're tying this all in. We got about 20 minutes left before we're going to have to jump off this live. But I think it's a brilliant point, and it really just goes. And so with all you people that are asking, why are cops leaving? Why are they leaving in droves? Who in their right mind wants to go to a job where you follow your training, you're attacked by an emotionally disturbed person, you do your job, right? We're trained to throw closed fist strikes, and in a 6-second span of a struggle, you're arrested, you have the ability to almost lose everything. And we're going through the numerous steps. And for those of you that missed it, the numerous decisions that Juan had to make. Should I retire early? Should I retire and just get out and fight this from being in the retired stance? And he did. He ultimately retired. He took the advice that Eric, myself, and a lot of others gave him to retire. But Juan currently has no ID card. He doesn't have his HR 218, which is a federal carry permit that all retired law enforcement officers should have. And all these decisions that he had to make that really just lowered. And it's really a traumatic event, really a completely traumatic event. So, that was all I had on this. Thank you for everybody that joined in, and thank you for the cool kids for your donation and everybody else that did donate to the podcast today.
Listen, you guys are on point. You guys are on point.
Thank you, Juan. Juan, I want to say, honestly, thank you so much for when you contacted John and myself by having the confidence to listen to our advice. It's unfortunate, but the unions, they're giving bad advice to hang on and fight it from within. And unfortunately, it's come to the point where some people are actually forced to retire or resign. It's the best move because of the predicament that we're in right now. And Juan, thank God, Juan is here, about a year later from his retirement, and he's got his pension. He's able to move on with his life. And I do believe that we could turn everything bad into something good. I want to read a comment from Sal Greco. I think it's a great comment. It's really what's going on right now. It's the dark cloud of this administration, and just shows the level of corruption right now. I believe this is corrupted itself when we make the comparison to the treatment of those around Eric Adams in comparison to Juan Perez, who was a New York City police officer doing his job. And Sal Greco says this: Corporation Counsel loves illegally representing executives and friends of Eric Adams and Eric himself for sexual misconduct, which is not under the scope of anyone's duties. And if Franco says 100, Sal, that's absolutely right. At this point, Juan Perez, whether we have opposition or those that favor Juan Perez because he's a New York City police officer, he was doing his job as he was paid and trained to do. He was summoned to that call. That was work-related. He was in uniform. These sexual allegations against Timothy Pearson and those around Eric Adams and Eric Adams himself were sexual allegations that have no stem, connected to your scope of employment. Now, are sexual allegations tough to prove and disprove? Absolutely. But you should not be represented by Corporation Counsel. And yet Juan Perez was put in a position where he is not represented. And right now he had to turn to the union. And, I do appreciate the union is helping him at this time. And that's what we want. That's why John and I speak out. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. But let's make no mistake about it. If it was not for this podcast, the union would have never stepped in. But if that's what it takes, I'm glad and I'm happy that they're helping you. I want to thank them that they're helping you. And I hope that you're not the only one. I hope that, God forbid, I was no longer here tomorrow, that they would still help the next person. That's what we don't want to just help because we're making noise. We want them to help because it's the right thing to do. Your mental health is important. And moving forward, Juan, you are representative of every cop. And I hope you understand that. Cool kids, you donated $1.99. Thank you so much for this podcast. Please support Juan. I think the most important thing is that you get support emotionally. That's what keeps us strong, is that we have a support system emotionally. Money only goes so far. I always said I'm never afraid to be rich. I'm never afraid to be broke. But I'm afraid to be alone.
Listen, after yesterday, a lot of that worrisome, it was like an elephant off my shoulders, So, last night was the first night that I got like a full night's sleep. I remember the last 2 years I would wake up in the middle of the night. I would drink a cup of coffee. I would go downstairs, smoke a cigarette. I had quit smoking, actually, because when I got indicted, I had a real bad episode. I called like a panic attack. I couldn't breathe. I was in the precinct parking lot, I remember, and I wound up driving. And I had to pull over because I couldn't breathe. And I wound up making it to Methodist Hospital in Park Slope. And when I got there, I could feel like my windpipes were closing. I couldn't breathe. My blood pressure was sky high. They had to give me oxygen. They had to bring. Never in my life did I ever have high blood pressure problems. They had to give me the pill that you put under your tongue to bring down your blood pressure. And every day that I was at Fleet Services, I would monitor my blood pressure. And I noticed that it was just sky high, man. It was just really bad. It was a really bad time. Last night was the first night I was able to get a full night's sleep. But it's true. It's true what they say. God puts his soldiers in front, So that is a true statement.
No, absolutely, dude. And we were just talking to Eric about this earlier because we've been under fire, man, for like a year and a half, and it's just more and more, and the attacks are from bigger and bigger people, and and I said I really believe that all the trials that we face in life, like God's truly preparing us for the next phase. He's strengthening us. He's giving us armor. So you went through the fire, bro. You went through the fire. Like I said, that's a totally traumatic situation. Again, you're going to work, you're responding to a 911 call, and next thing you know, your career, your freedom, your good name, and all your plans are swiped out from under you within 6 seconds.
Yeah,
within
man.
6 seconds, dude. So it's like that's the reality of being a New York City police officer. And I just hope everyone that's listening to this that might view being a cop a little differently, or may even view Juan's actions that day differently. I hope you understand that Juan put a uniform on to do his job, right? He was going there to do his job. The last thing he wanted to do was be involved in that situation. And he reacted in a fight or flight situation. He defended himself and overcame an assault. And he deployed 6 strikes in 6 seconds. And his entire life was sent into a whirlwind. And listen to what happened to him. He's having panic attacks. And I'm glad you quit that weak-ass habit of smoking cigarettes. Let's say it's because I there was a time in my life I smoked too, and I don't any longer. I haven't. And sometimes you guys see me with a cigar. I just hold it. I haven't smoked a cigar since I had COVID. I haven't put any tobacco products. I refuse to smoke anything. I don't even like being around the smoke, but I do miss it. I just can't. I can't do it. After I had COVID, I just have the diminished lung function and all that other stuff. So, but yeah, no, I'm glad to see that you're coming out, and that's it. And I think.
I have to quit now. I had picked it up when I had quit like 2 years ago, and then I started again. So I got to quit again now.
Quit that shit, bro. Yeah. And then, and I know, and I just think it's real brave of you, and it just shows your character that you're able to come on here the next day, even though the outcome wasn't what we all wanted and what we all thought it should be.
Yeah.
But you're still brave enough to come on here and give your thoughts and your opinions. So I got to commend you, dude.
It's like I tell people, I did nothing wrong, man. I did nothing wrong. I like to use these analogies. I wasn't, doing heinous things. You don't have to like me because I'm an outspoken guy. You don't have to like me because, I don't keep my mouth shut and I tell you the truth and I'll tell you to your face, whoever it is. You don't got to like me. But, hey, listen, what happened because of the actions of the person that was there. Anybody that knows me knows that my interactions are always good. When they go bad, it's because the person that I'm dealing with has done something to make it go bad. Plenty of times I've had beautiful interactions with great people. But like I said, we're living in a metropolis, and we're policing in a metropolis of hundreds of thousands of people, demonstrators, and instigators, antagonizers that don't like cops. So
Juan, there's one more thing before we go, because this is important. I just want to discuss this before we get you off here. I know you probably
stay on.
Oh, I love it. Okay, good. I know you're probably tired. I mean, John and I have been bumping our gums for days.
We do got to run in like 10 minutes, though. 10, 15 minutes. We got to go.
10 minutes. But
we have another engagement.
I want to get this out. So John and I are very expressive about how the 50A destroys lives, destroys careers, and how it's heavily weighed against you. Can you tell our friends and listeners to the podcast, everybody listen right now, how did the 50A affect you in your trial? Was it something that came up in your trial, and did it affect you positive, negative, or was it weighted at all?
So I was told that they're going to bring up my disciplinary history. Now, my understanding is that the disciplinary history or whatever discipline you get in the NYPD stays in the NYPD. That should not be used outside of it. That's my understanding. I don't know. But they make it seem like a disciplinary history is like, oh, he has a long rap sheet, or he's been so heinous. And I'm like, wait a minute. I looked up for 17 years. I said, okay. Then I asked you, Eric, 17 years. I only got like nine complaints, 0 substantiated. He's like, bro, I got like 100. That's not a big deal. I said, okay, so let me see. I asked my other friend, yo, John, let me see. Look, you mind if I find how much? Run your name, John. Oh, he tells me, John Rivera, he says, bro, that's all bullshit. I only got like 13, 15 of them. I said, bro, but they're trying to make it seem like my 10 of 17 years of service is a lot. So while I'm in trial, the DA is saying he had 10 complaints and he had administrative charges and that he got away with a lot and the only reason he left was because he retired. The way they tried to paint it was just horrible. It was just atrocious. And yeah, the 58 does not help because anybody could punch in your name. They could punch in your last name, your shield, and now they see all your history. They brought up that I was mentioned in 2 lawsuits. Mind you, we know that if me and you are working and something happens and all of us are there, we're going to be in a lawsuit, correct? And we're going to be mentioned in the lawsuit. That doesn't mean that you're specific. So there was 2 lawsuits that I was mentioning. I wasn't the subject of both of them. They brought that up. The city had to pay out 400-something thousand because he was involved. And the way they presented, if nobody knows and nobody's able to decipher the difference, they're gonna look at you like, shit, bro. You're the next thing to Jim Jones, or you're a horrible person. You know?
Yeah, listen, I just want to give a big shout out to IMP FRCO M Franco. He just donated $99.99 and donated $100 to the podcast. We really appreciate that.
And Franco, thank you, brother. Outstanding.
Franco's the man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks. That really means a lot, guys. It's you know, I can't thank you guys enough for that. That's a lot of money and you don't have to do that, but we appreciate it. And it'll go towards further in this platform.
He's a good dude, Franco. Good guy. He's retired. Good guy.
Franco, thank you so much. It's so kind and so generous that, you know, anyone dips into their pocket, especially, you know, $100. We really appreciate it. So kind. And I mean, you've been so kind to us, the compliments you've given us. It really, you know what, it's just about us helping each other. And that's what we have to do. We have to build a network. And it takes, you know, people to really help each other. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so let's, you know, we got 2,900 people on here. We got a retired police officer, Juan Perez, on here. We're talking about the corruption scandal. We got about 10 minutes left. We do have another engagement, Eric and myself. We're working on some big things that are coming up, and you guys are going to see that with some other notable people, and we're pretty excited about that. We'll reveal that at a later date. But yeah, so what do you think about what's going on with this Adams administration, Juan? Like, you're seeing all of these scandals breaking out. Is this something that's surprising to you? And what are your thoughts around it?
Well, it's always surprising when something happens like that, because when it happened, remember when Bratton was there, that Bratton had that corruption scandal with the guys taking jewelry? You're like, oh, wow, because people are so used to, oh, it's the cops on the ground, the cop that's taking the coffee, or he's walking the beat, which that doesn't happen anymore. That doesn't happen. You rarely see cops walking around on the beat. But it's so easy to make the rules to hurt the lower cop that's on the ground dealing with the everyday person. Because when you write a rule or you write a procedure, you make it that it only affects one way down. It doesn't affect entirety in a circle, and it goes round and round, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So yeah, was I surprised? Nah, not really. No.
Either way.
With the
it didn't come as a shock, huh?
Listen, the minute he picked Mr. Integrity, Philip Banks. Okay, let me tell you about Philip Banks. Philip Banks was the chief XO of Patrol Borough, Brooklyn South at one point. Okay, he would go into precincts and he would spew about integrity and how you have to be. Everything was integrity. He would just pop up out of nowhere, and he would walk into precincts with like a couple of people, like he was, like, I don't know, like he was this big shot. You know, it was at that time I only had 3 years on, so I was like, oh shit, that's the chief. You know, I came out the military, so in my mind I'm like, oh wow, he's a big important person. So later on over the years, you know, people would tell me, these guys, he's the chief, he is the chief there. But later on, you saw, they would go around spilling integrity this, integrity that, and you have to do this, you have to do that. And look, he was chosen by the Adams administration to come back and serve with them in City Hall. So that should tell you something.
Yeah, guys, just real quick before we get off this. This happens last night. I believe a woman in her 50s. She's coming home from work. It's in the evening, right on the Lower East Side. You're both familiar with this area of Manhattan. You've both patrolled the streets right there. She's going home. She's going home to her apartment building. It's a 12-story apartment building. The average value of the home is over $1 million. It's in a pretty affluent area of Manhattan. Not cheap to rent there. And she is shot. I'm gonna play the video, and then Eric, I'd like to get your thoughts, and then Juan, I want to get yours as well. So let's see. This comes out from WPix11.
A tragic scene here on Market Street, leaving a husband in disbelief. The crime scene just behind me. Police still inside on the 8th floor of this building. The NYPD telling me a man came home around 11 p.m. He was followed into this building by 2 men. Those 2 men got into the elevator with him, riding it up to the 8th floor. Police say that's when the 2 men tried to rob him, and a commotion ensued in the hallway. His wife hears the commotion, hearing her husband's voice, steps out into the hallway, and police say that's when the 57-year-old woman was shot in the face and pronounced dead minutes later. The 2 men then took off running, police having this description for us. One wore a half-red, half-black hoodie, black and white shoes, black pants, and a white stripe going down the leg, covering his face with a black ski mask. The other suspect also hiding his face with a black ski mask, dressed in all black, wearing black and white sneakers, both of them running away on foot. Back out here live, police telling me at this stage of their investigation, they do not believe the suspect and the victims knew each other. This is just a horrific tragedy. We're live on the Lower East Side. I'm Calorama, Pix 11.
Eric, what are your thoughts around this? This is unbelievable.
This is terrible. I mean, I worked in the Lower East Side a long time. I was an anti-crime sergeant, PSA 4. I covered housing, on Avenue D along the FDR Drive, and it's a very mixed bag in the Lower East Side. You have housing, and then you also have some very affluent buildings, and they're right next to each other. This is a sad thing to see. It really is sad to see this, especially, what do we know? Is most crimes are people that know each other, but these are just stranger crimes. What I'm curious about is this something that has to do with illegals? Typically when I used to work in the Lower East Side, because of the nomenclature, how you have affluent buildings next to housing, in most cases when I would hear violent crimes, something on from 911, immediately I would, even if it was something that happened in these affluent buildings, I would go right to housing. And many times that's where we would find our perpetrators. And it has nothing to do with race. I'm sure they're going to talk about race, but that's where perpetrators used to harbor. But I'm curious if this has something to do with illegals, especially in the manner that they're dressed, and the fact that this was an attack on a stranger. It's sad. This is the state of New York City right now. I mean, even in an affluent building in the Lower East Side, no one is longer safe. Rod Marine, you put it simplified, brother. Alphabet City is a hippie town now. You're absolutely right. It's a total mixed bag. I always said it's a great place. I think everybody should work in the Lower East Side because you get the most diversity that you're going to get in the city. I mean, you could stand on Avenue D in East 6th Street, and you could be standing there with a violent perpetrator. You could have someone that's hopped up on drugs, and you could have someone that's a total hippie on their way to work in a suit that's worth $1 million. Gigi Jupiter, wow, Gigi Jupiter with another $99.99. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. We appreciate it. You have been a great friend and great listener to the podcast. You sit with us the entire time and listen and weigh in with your comments. Thank you so much. I can't show enough gratitude.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gigi. We appreciate it. We're really overwhelmed by the support that we have. We've got about 3,045 people on this live. Juan, what are your thoughts? Is this a crime that you've ever experienced working your career in Lower Manhattan?
Not in Lower Manhattan when I was in the 6th, nothing like that. Nothing too crazy. But growing up in Bedford-Stuyvesant, when I grew up there, and let me tell you something, we saw a lot of things like that. Okay, so that's not new to me. To see something like that, that's not new. But in the city, in those places, we never seen that before. We never, we're seeing a lot of things like that take place in these neighborhoods that are very, affluent, hippie town, restaurants, neighborhoods that have transformed over the years, that have gotten better. You see them declining. You see them going backwards again,
No, yeah. I mean, to me, I'm sitting here and I'm saying thank you, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, for supporting open borders. Thank you to Kamala Harris. Thank you to Joe Biden for not enforcing our border laws, because I've never seen this. This is horrific, horrendous crime in Manhattan. Like you said, in the outer boroughs, Juan, in the 90s, right? You know, early 90s, they were a lot different than Manhattan. But, you know, our police careers, though, I think New York City was the best version of itself. And yeah, we would get women robbed and we would get women assaulted 100%. And unfortunately, sexual assaults, rapes. But to shoot a woman in the face who you're trying to rob, I don't ever remember seeing this in my time as a New York City police officer, or even in recent memory, even since I left. Something this vicious to shoot a 50-year-old woman in the face who's just trying to go home from work because you're looking to rob her. This, to me, appears to be third world type crime, an extreme amount of violence. My hearts go out to her family, you know, and to her. I'll say prayers for her. This is horrific. This has to end. Unfortunately, this is I don't believe Eric Adams or his low integrity appointed managers of the NYPD really have the capabilities to stop this, or the honesty and integrity to stop this. And I don't believe this is what they're focused on. Obviously, the things that are coming out now, you see where their focus lies. Their focus lies on their celebrity. Their focus lies on their pockets, not on the safety of New York City, not on the safety of the residents, not worrying, caring about anybody. Corn Pop says if the victim was carrying, his wife would be alive today. Corn Pop, you're 100% right. You know, you're a good friend and listener and friend to this podcast, and we appreciate your insights. Guys, let's just go around one more time and then wrap it up. We're about to approach 3,100 people. I can't say enough. I'm overwhelmed by all the support that we've been given. And, you know, we really appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Juan, I want to hear your words, and then I'll close it out, brother.
As we see, and we've seen the last 4 years, we started with de Blasio, the decline of New York City. Under Bloomberg, you know, people were complaining about the stop and frisk. You know, I mean, people would not be happy that, you know, the police were so visible. But the crime rate in New York City wasn't what it is today. You know, under de Blasio, it was getting worse. And now we see under this administration, you see businesses closing. If you go to Manhattan, and this is one thing my father told me, residential leasing and commercial leasing are two different things. He says, if you see commercial businesses fleeing Manhattan, that's a very bad sign. And he says, the reason that's happening is because the crime that's taking place in Manhattan. People that are business people that are investing their money in the city of New York, why are they going to put their money? For instance, Walgreens, Dwayne Reed. How many Dwayne Reeds have closed because of the crime? They come in, they take whatever they want, they run out, and if somebody does something, they get hurt, they get punished. So the crime wave in New York right now is very, very bad. A lot of people are leaving. I no longer live in New York. You don't live in New York. And a lot of people are not going to stay in New York because of this. Because sadly, this lady was just minding her business and she got shot in the face. An innocent victim, you know, that could be anyone at any time, and that's very disturbing. That at this point, this could be happening at this time where we're at in the city of New York. That's not good at all. That's a very, very bad sign where things are going with New York City.
Well, I got to back up 1 second because M. Franco actually donated $100 twice to this podcast. You didn't have to do that.
Franco's the man.
You didn't have to do that, bro. Listen, we really appreciate it. We're going to put it towards this podcast. We appreciate it. But more importantly than anything is we really appreciate your support, you being here, you weighing in, you having coffee with us every day and giving your thoughts. Eric, what do you got to say? How do you want to close this out?
Well, I just want to say I'm blown away, and I appreciate and I understand that I in Franco, I find myself to be the same way. Like, you know, when I go out to restaurants, and if someone's good to me, I always find myself to be like an over tipper. You know, if I valet my car and someone's a gentleman, you know, right away throw them $20. And I want to say thank you. And the money's not important to us. It's really not. We want to build this podcast, but I appreciate, because obviously we can't really communicate here other than, you know, as far as what we're doing here with the podcast and listening. But I do think it's a sense of you, you know, give us a compliment. I really appreciate it. I'm blown away by what we're getting from our friends and listeners to the podcast. I can't thank you enough. It's so generous. It really is. I'm shocked. I'm blown away by this. And, it just really solidifies and validates. I'm glad that what we're doing. But with that being said, I want to say this. I'm going to add this to my list. So I always said the two benchmarkers for the condition of the city of New York is Central Park and Times Square. But after listening to this, John, I'm going to add the Lower East Side because I worked in the Lower East Side. And the Lower East Side, you always have to have your finger on the pulse because if you take your finger off the pulse, it could be a very violent place. And we see the years that it was plagued by violence, the Lower East Side, and before the big real estate takeover, I mean, that you couldn't even buy a building there for $1. And if anybody has an opportunity to ever read, there's a great book. It's called Alphaville. And it's about a sergeant. He was a crime sergeant in PSA 4, same place that I worked. And they used to call him, and they made a lot of great arrests. But he tells a story of what it was like working on the Lower East Side. It was just some crazy stuff that happened back then. So check it out. Anybody has an opportunity to check out the book. It's called Alphaville. John, I think you will love the book unless you read it already. Check it out, please. That was the condition of the Lower East Side. I seen the Lower East Side make a real turnaround. And unfortunately, because of Mayor Eric Adams and this administration, we see it going full circle. And it's back to what I remember reading in Alphaville. So that's why I mentioned that. But with that being said, man, Juan Perez, I got nothing but love for you. I really have a love for you. I'm not a religious person. And I'm telling you, yesterday, John cited a verse from the Bible, and we said it together to pray for you. I'm Jewish, but I'm not religious. John says, you got to be religious in some way. But you know what, brother?
Have to.
I believe in you. I'm happy. I hope you could smile. I hope you get good. It saddens me that you had sleepless nights and you sound good today and you sound positive. And I hope you keep moving forward. If you make it through this, you can make it through anything. And that's what we need. We're all supporting each other right now. Rob Marine, Semper Fi, brother. You're a Marine. You know what I'm talking about. That's why Marines are so strong, because we work as a team. And that's what we're doing right here. So I want to thank everybody. And let's keep trucking together. Check out our friend Tom Sullivan, running for state assembly, and let's move forward.
Before we do that, I just want to say 3,200 people on here today. We appreciate everybody. Obviously, Juan's going to be cycling back in and out of this show. Newest member of the Finest Unfiltered. Excited to have him out here to get his thoughts, to weigh in. And I just want to say I'm getting a lot of comments on X. For you guys that are on X, make sure you're in the live chat. I can't look at my phone constantly and see and pull them up. If you're on X and you're commenting and you're just commenting about the tweet, I don't see it. Make sure you're plugged in and on the live chat. This way we'll be able to bring your comments up there. Listen, we appreciate all the love for this podcast, but like Eric said, make sure you're letting everybody know about our friend Tom Sullivan. Tom Sullivan is the Republican, Conservative, and Common Sense Party candidate for New York State Assembly District 23. Tom is a financial professional who served simultaneously in the United States Army Reserve for 30 years and has now retired. His district covers Ozone Park, Lindenwold, Howard Beach, Broad Channel, and the Rockaway Peninsula.
Come November, I would empower our law enforcement agencies to go out there and do their job and not put them or their families or their pensions at risk for doing their jobs. We need drastic change in Albany so that we have a say in this matter, and they realize people of New York State will hold them accountable.
The Sullivan family has a legacy of service. Tom served for 30 years protecting and defending the rights of others. Come this November, he has earned your support. This advertisement's paid for by the Friends of Tom Sullivan. So, Eric, Juan jumped off, but what are your closing thoughts, brother, before we get out of here?
I want to say thank you to Prime Timer. Another person just added $20 to the bank. Thank you so much. I really am shocked, man. I'm blown away on the generosity that we received. The generosity of comments, the generosity of compliments, the generosity of support, the generosity of people dip into the pockets. I'm really shocked, man. I'm blown away. Thank you so much. This is about building a network. This is about helping people just like Juan Perez. He's someone that needed help. And I really believe that it's us coming together to help someone like Juan Perez and hopefully Juan Perez will pay it forward. That's what it should be in life. We pay it forward, and that's the way we should be. And I couldn't be. I'm shocked. I'm blown away. Thank you so much to everybody. Really, this is a great podcast. It's been a great run. It's been a great podcast because we got great friends, great listeners. You weigh in with us. We do this together. Thank you so much. Tomorrow's 9/11. We're going to be down in honor of 9/11 of our heroes in September 11th. So we'll be back Thursday morning, 8:05 live Eastern time. And, of course, for me, it'll be Pacific time early in the morning at 5:05. And with that being said, thank you so much. New York's Finest Fraternal Unfiltered Podcast. See you soon.
And just let us know if we're thinking about doing the Tariq Hill episode on Thursday, unless something else breaks prior to then, which more than likely it will. But just let us know if you see anything else you think we should do a show on. We'll gladly do it. All right, guys. Thanks. New York's Finest Fraternal Unfiltered Podcast. We will be back at you Thursday, 08:05 live.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community, but who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888-901 Blue. That's 888-901 Blue.